Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of Reddit Podcast Stories, where today, my wife is mad that I'm hesitant to use our 2-year-old savings account to buy a new car. This has been an ongoing debate, but I'm trying really hard to put money away for our daughter. My mother passed when I was 18, and my father was worthless. My mom put money away as much as she could and left us with a house, had insurance that paid out, and gave me the start in life that I needed without her. I don't make a ton of money, but over the past 2 years, I've managed to put away about $5,000 for my daughter. I'm kind of angry at myself for not saving more, but it's still something, and it's in the highest interest savings account I could find. I just want her to have a good life, free of too many worries about the small stuff. Maybe I can help her with a deposit for a house someday, tuition, her own car, or something like that. My wife doesn't like that I'm saving money for her. She says we have things that we need now that are much more important. We don't own a car, and we don't need one for the most part, but my wife's starting a business and will need one. She doesn't understand why you should save. Her parents never saved for her and don't help her financially. I don't really want a car. She got even more mad when I tried to meet her halfway and say, how about we pay our little one back over a year and add the interest she would have had on the money if it had stayed in the account. She said that's incredibly messed up, and how could I even suggest we pay interest to our daughter? I'm at a loss. I've never been great with money, but I recognize how much savings can help. Am I the jerk for being resistant to using our kids' savings on ourselves? I recognize that money is just money, and these barriers I've put up are artificial, but surely I'm doing the right thing. Not the jerk. I get needing money and looking for places to find it, but you're doing a great thing for your daughter, and if you let this money go, you'll do it again and again until there's nothing left. Info: what kind of business is your wife starting? None of my business really, but if you're that cash-strapped, I'm dubious on her chances of success. Starting a business can be expensive. Might be better to get a regular job without startup expenses and save up. Or do you both really believe she has a good chance at success? And please, this isn't an MLM, is it? Asking because taking money from places you shouldn't to start a business is often where those stories start, and they never end well. Not the jerk. Wanting to save money for your kid is a noble goal. And if you have solely contributed to your kid's savings account, then you should dictate how it's spent. But it sounds like you and your wife are in different places when it comes to how you handle money. You need to get on the same page, otherwise this will be an ongoing argument where she sees the kid's savings account as money that's available for daily use, but you don't. It would be useful if you and your wife could get some financial counseling and/or marriage counseling so you can get on the same page with these and probably other differences. Everyone sucks here. It's good that you're thinking about savings, but it seems like you have become fixated on saving for something that's 20 years away, and you're also not thinking about what your current financial needs are. That would be out of balance, and it's generally not a good idea to do things in an imbalanced way. It would be worth doing some big picture thinking about your family finances and then making some decisions as a couple. Because the second reason you're the jerk here is because you seem to be making family financial decisions on your own, and you don't appear to believe your wife has an equal say. That's not how a healthy relationship works. You also need to think about short-term spending. If the family does need a car, it's not clear from the post if that's a real need or not, then that should be considered. There also needs to be some kind of fun money every month, or life just becomes dull, hard, and slog that's barely worth living. It doesn't have to be much, but saving for future security at the expense of living your life now is not balanced. If you have money to put into savings, then you can find a balance between that and at least minimal fun money. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his wife? Please let us know. Financial advice and parenting advice, two of the worst things to ask for on Reddit. My best friend's mistress doesn't know that he's actually broke. My wife's reaction to the whole thing really bummed me out. I'm 41, male. My best friend, Jack, who's 41, I've known him since kindergarten. Well, he cheated on his wife, Anna, who's 39, with a girl half his age, Max, who's 25. Anna is one of the best human beings I've ever met. She's very beautiful, kind, and caring. She's very successful, too. When Jack met her, he was so in love that he wrote an ironclad prenup just to be with her. In other words, Jack has nothing to his name. He met Max on a work trip, and it was then that he cheated on Anna. The affair lasted for 2 months until Max made an ultimatum to leave his wife for her. Jack refused and tried to end the affair, so Max told Anna everything. This broke Anna beyond repair, and she told Jack that she couldn't forgive him. They're in the process of divorcing now, and Jack lives in a small studio apartment near his work. After Jack lost hope to reconciliation with Anna, he started seeing Max again. Now they're officially dating. My wife, Pat, who's 32, knows all of the details. She's more forgiving and understanding person than I am, and I love that about her. She is way more tolerant because I'm Team Anna, and there's nothing Jack can say to make me change my opinion. Now everything is settled, my wife said that she wanted to invite Jack and his new girlfriend to our place. I was very reluctant at first, but my wife insisted that my friendship with Jack is important. We're basically brothers, and we should accept people we love even with their flaws. It made sense, and I trust my wife to always make sense. The dinner was awkward. I couldn't see past these two cheaters. Jack pretending to be happy, and Max overexcited for the fact that she won this prize named Jack. I understood then that things won't be the same, but my wife was right. I love Jack, and that's the most important thing right now. Max talked about her upbringing and the hard life that she had had growing up. She talked about her future with Jack and all of the fun they would have. It dawned on me that she didn't know that they couldn't do half of what she is dreaming of with Jack's salary. It dawned on me why she chose him and why she was so willing to do what she did to Anna. She had learned to know the Jack who lived in fancy hotels and drove a fancy car. When I asked her about their living arrangements, Max said that Jack temporarily is living in a studio apartment until the divorce is settled. Max talked about what she would do to their place, renovation and redecorating. The apartment that Anna bought for her family with her hard-earned money. The one she decorated with her husband from scratch to make it their home. I remember how happy and full of dreams she was when she found her dream home. To hear Max sitting there talking about how she would use money she never earned to redecorate a home she wasn't entitled to, making fun of another woman's taste and style, it brought tears to my eyes. Yes, men can get emotional too. Jack has not told Max the truth. When they left, Pat and I started discussing our dear friends. I was very surprised when Pat angrily told me that I was cruel and callous for not wanting to enlighten Max about her new situation. My wife thought that Max had a tough life and she deserved to have a good life now. I was taken aback by my wife's logic. I told my wife that I will not tell Max anything, but that if she wanted to, then be my guest. But now I don't understand my wife, and I'm turned off by her morals. Anna was a great friend of my wife, but my wife doesn't even seem to care about her. My wife then got very angry and accused me of caring too much about Anna. That's when I ended the discussion, because I realized that this was going below the belt. Update: I've fallen in love with my best friend's ex-wife. My previous post opened up my eyes. This is so convoluted, but I'll try my best to make it make sense. About my wife, Pat. Sometimes you think you know the person that you fell in love with and married, but then something serious happens and your relationship stands in a trial. Something divisive, and you find yourself standing on opposite sides. You start wondering about the person you chose to create a life with and wonder why you love them when they're so different from you. You realize that you probably love the version of them that you created in your head. We had a lot of discussions, Pat and I, about how I felt about her new friendship with Jack and Max, and she ignored my disdain for what they had done. I understand that people fall in and out of love and they move on, but then other people in their surroundings also should have feelings or opinions about these decisions. Nobody is right or wrong. Pat's approach was very non-judgmental, which is obviously an admirable thing, but I found myself on the opposite side. Pat told Max that Jack is actually not the one with the money like he had been pretending, and while he is probably not going to be totally empty-handed in this divorce settlement, it won't be the amount that would allow all the dreams and plans she's made, especially when Anna is getting full custody. This put a big wedge between Jack and Max, and they've been off again and on again since this revelation. Jack has expressed a lot of disgust and repulsion towards Max, so I really don't understand this relationship and why these two miserable people stay together, nor do I want to understand. They disgust me, and I'm done with them. About Anna. When she heard about my separation from my wife, she reached out to both of us. She said that since she's gone through something similar, she wanted to offer support and love. She said that she knew what we were going through. We started talking on the phone and texting. Now almost daily, I've met up with her on a few occasions for dinner. I find myself thinking about her all the time, and when I wake up in the morning, I go directly to my phone to see if she sent me a good morning text, and I know my day will be just fine when I find one. Not sure if this is love or if I'm falling for her. Not sure if pursuing anything with her is wise. I've not told anyone about these feelings, and I'm not sure I ever will. I just know that I love having her in my life. She's a great friend, and maybe I shouldn't ruin this beautiful friendship with this beautiful woman because of my desires. Additional info. The thing is, Jack changed a whole lot too. It wasn't only the questionable morality of having an affair, and I don't know if he has always been this way, but never needed to show his true colors because he was married to a brilliant woman. He's now moronic, bitter, and angry all the time, very disrespectful of everything and everyone. He called Anna, the mother of his kids, mean names, and even now his new girlfriend, he calls her names too. He hasn't even seen his kids since Anna made it clear that they would never get back together, like their purpose is done. Never once did he say that he misses his kids. And Pat has seen all of these changes and it doesn't even bother her, not even a little. What she told me was that he will have more kids with his new girlfriend. I remember the fight we had after this conversation. I never really recovered from it. It's true what they say, that people show their true colors when times are bad. My geeky girlfriend's friends hate me. Pretty sure one of them has the hots for her. I met my now girlfriend at our campus gym. I jokingly asked her to spot me, made a joke about me not being a big guy. I'm not, and somehow ended up getting her to go on a date with me after we were done. We've been together ever since. While I was getting to know her, she admitted to being a huge geek. I never would have guessed, but apparently her brother pretty much gave her a constant stream of stuff like that. At the time, I thought cool, we could play Xbox together or something. There actually wasn't a lot of overlap, besides some games like Halo. She's into a lot of things that I never paid attention to, like Dungeons & Dragons, Final Fantasy, World of Warcraft, etc. It's been pretty fun, and we still work out and run together all the time, and she'll watch me play my sports. We're going to do some co-ed leagues together too. The only problem is that a small group of her friends really hate me. I'll name the main problem guy Bill. There's been a couple of really passive-aggressive things him and his little group have done. 1. We were playing Destiny and doing a strike, which is for 3 players. It was Bill, my girlfriend, and me. He kept leaving the party and inviting her to a different party. When she refused, he sent a text saying another one of their friends was on and wanted to play. My girlfriend decided to just play with me and one of my friends. My girlfriend has a nice apartment. I'm probably over there 5 nights a week, including Saturdays. On Saturday, they have a Dungeons & Dragons party basically. Some of her friends who play, including Bill, come over and play Dungeons & Dragons. Bill complained about all of the people who came over and don't play. Everyone else just drinks and has a good time. My girlfriend told him to get over it because everyone else has a good time. Another video game related issue. My girlfriend had all of us play Diablo 3. Her, Bill, me, and Ryan, who's actually a good guy. I was having a little fun, basically making my girlfriend hold my hand through the game. Bill ran ahead and died. He was upset. He invited my girlfriend to a concert with him and his closest friends after I had already bought the tickets for us to go and have her see it with my family. My girlfriend told him that we might see him there, and he asked if we would even be together that long. This one's probably the most egregious. Yesterday, he literally sent a text to me saying that I'm hogging my girlfriend. I sent something saying that if she didn't want to hang out with me so much, she wouldn't. He replied I didn't have to do everything with my girlfriend and that it was annoying people. I'm positive he has a crush on her. My girlfriend's told me that she grew up with him but never really liked him, that he was a part of the group and she'd rather not make a fuss. She's pretty not confrontational. I don't think I can really blame him for having a crush on her. She's beautiful and all, but I definitely think he's been nothing but a jerk this whole time. Fortunately, I'm not very threatened, mainly because he isn't my girlfriend's type physically, if what I look like is anything to go off of. Should I just ignore him? Update. Well, those of you that just said that he'd escalate things, you were right. Something I ate must have given me food poisoning 2 days ago, so she's been taking care of me for the past few days. She got a call from Bill, who was at her apartment with some of her friends. She pretty much has an open door policy. People drop by unannounced all the time. She went to go meet them, and apparently they decided to have some sort of an intervention, basically saying what Bill had said to me earlier in text, that I didn't have to do everything with them and that we spend too much time together. It escalated because my girlfriend got angry and they aren't friends anymore. My girlfriend came home crying. I did my best to comfort her and we haven't heard from them since yesterday. Apparently, there were a few more people, including some of her female friends in that group, that she's been really close with who had a problem with us, but most of her friends didn't bother taking a side. How do I support her through this? She's lost a relatively large chunk of friends, and even if they weren't great friends, they were the people she shared her hobbies with. Obviously, if she wants to do anything with me, I'll do it with her, but I can't replace all of them. She's not crying anymore, she's just angry at this point. Advice would be great. Update 2. John, another one of her original Dungeons & Dragons friends from school, sent my girlfriend an email asking if they could talk with us yesterday. We agreed, honestly thinking that they might apologize. They actually decided to tell my girlfriend that they'd still like to be friends and that they didn't have to be friends with me to be friends with her. My girlfriend said she understood that, but wasn't even sure if she still wanted to be friends. They actually apologized for putting her in that position the other day when they tried an intervention. She still said the only way that they could ever be friends again was to apologize to me and her. I really don't know why. I had to ask them what they didn't like about me, and they told me. And honestly, some of their points had a little merit, and I'll probably have to work on them. I only met my girlfriend because I was physically attracted to her and decided to talk to her. I don't think this is a legitimate criticism. I spend too much time with my girlfriend, which I do, but like I said in the previous post, it's something we both currently want, and I've never told her to hang out with me over them or anything. I only talk to my girlfriend when we're all in a group. I guess I do tend to do that. I see how that's annoying when we're having a conversation no one else is a part of. They feel like I've had my girlfriend kick them out before. She has a few times so that we could be together. Both times I didn't tell her to. Apparently, my friends that came over made a few jokes about Dungeons & Dragons and made them feel uncomfortable. I actually apologized for this. Although I'm probably not going to say anything to them, we weren't really more than acquaintances. Bill heard a story, and thus told it to the rest of the group, from one of my few high school friends, about a few of the girls I dated in high school, and that I had a nasty habit of leading girls on in high school. I did, but my senior year, my mom and my older sister sat me down and told me to stop doing this and treat them with more respect, so I did. I told my girlfriend about this. I consider it to be one of the more important moments of my life. Anyways, we left. My girlfriend and I talked it over. She's still not going to forgive them if they don't apologize to both of us. She said she doesn't want to spend any less time with me and sent an email pretty much saying this to them. 2 of the 6 have already apologized by way of phone call. I should note that Bill wasn't there. I think he's out of town for whatever reason. Not sure if he'll apologize or not. I wanted some advice on how to be around the group that did and will apologize. The 2 girls in the group are her friends that usually come over multiple times a week, as opposed to her Dungeons & Dragons group which only come over once a week. I think the girls will probably start inviting her out more as opposed to hanging out in her apartment. I really don't think that, if they continue playing D&D, that they'll be able to hang out somewhere else. My girlfriend said that she'd be willing to move the game night. From what I've gathered so far, Bill gathered all that info about me from my high school friends, and it makes me uneasy. I don't have anything to hide, but he basically researched me. I haven't said anything about this because I do want my girlfriend to have her friends back. I think our relationship is still doing great. We had a lot of fun this weekend before they asked to meet us. I also want to apologize for posting so much. I'm not terribly close with my friends. I can't really talk to them about any of this. I would have been really upset if someone's significant other at my games had friends over and they made fun of me and my friends for playing Dungeons & Dragons, to the point of not welcome here anymore. OP, they're not coming over again. I just won't invite them. I definitely think Bill was the instigator in all of this, but for just a moment, try and see it from the rest of their points of view. Hey Reddit, we have this friend that we love to play Dungeons & Dragons with. She has a new significant other, and they seem to really like each other. However, she seems to always spend her time with him, including on our game nights. We try to talk to him, but he basically ignores us. On top of that, his friends made fun of us one night and he didn't stand up to them, which you think he would since he loves his girlfriend. One of the other group members said he used to be a huge womanizer a few years ago. When we tried to talk to her about it, she got really mad and is demanding an apology to the both of them. What should I do? I'm not exactly defending them, but everyone on here seems to be jumping down their throats as well. From your point of view, they're being unreasonable, but from their point of view, you're being a jerk. I don't know what the intervention was actually like, but can you at least see why some of them might have been concerned? They probably took it a little bit too far, with Bill leading the way, I'm sure, but you aren't faultless either. I think you need to drop Bill and then try to get to know them individually instead of lumping them into her Dungeons & Dragons group. Having everything be relayed through other people is a little juvenile. Maybe try to just grab coffee with 1 or 2 of them, or have them try to teach you how to play. Essentially, what I'm trying to say is don't make your girlfriend push her friends away because of one idiot. OP, I definitely plan on making an effort with those ones that apologized. I think the reason I never talked to them before was because they were probably a little hesitant around me, and I just took that as them not really wanting a conversation. I never heard my friends saying anything. If I did, I would have said something, even if it's just a little defense, because of my girlfriend. High school geek groups, in my experience at least, do this weird thing where if even one nerdy girl joins, everyone else goes into a "we must protect the hive queen" mode and becomes super territorial of her. That's why I'm a closet geek. For some reason, when those "nerdy is my only personality" guys find out that I share their hobbies, they think I'm the fated one heaven sent to them. It sounds like they're used to using this girlfriend's apartment as their hangout spot, and I wonder if part of their gripe is about not being able to use her place whenever they feel like it. It would also be easier on the group if the girlfriend dated within the group so their dynamic isn't disrupted. They may have been hoping Bill and the girlfriend would pair up. Early 20s group dynamics are crappy adults who still engage in high school level drama. Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk or not? Please let us know. Don't date people with dramatic friend groups that cause problems and drama and stuff. It's totally not worth it. Am I the jerk for not allowing my sister to use my farm as her wedding venue? My late grandpa started his farm while he was in his early 20s. There were financial problems along the way, but it became successful and he became rich. My late grandma, who passed last year, grew up in the average working class home. My parents came from rich families and went to private schools and Ivy colleges. My mother and father always wanted 3 kids, 2 girls and 1 boy. I'm the youngest out of 3 girls, and my parents were desperately hoping that their last would be a boy. But since I was a girl, they were resentful of me, and they didn't show any love to me, and I was pretty much treated like Cinderella. Because my parents showed resentment towards me, my sisters did too, and I was bullied by them, and they always got away with it. We were treated differently as they both went to private schools, private colleges. They were also allowed to do whatever they wanted and eat whenever they wanted. I went to a public school, public college, and I was only allowed to eat 3 meals a day. I didn't mind going to public school, but I'm just trying to show how I was treated differently. At the weekends, I was shipped off to my grandmother so they could have family time. At age 12, I asked my grandmother if I could live with her, and she agreed. As soon as she asked my parents, they immediately said yes and started packing my bags. Whilst going to my grandmother's at the weekend, she made me work on the farm. Even whilst living with her permanently, she continued to make me work on the farm on weekends. I hated that I had to work on the farm, and looking back now, I realize why she made me do it, as she made me work on the farm as a source of therapy, as I was constantly arguing, and her animals were my therapy. I remember spending most of my days sitting with the horses and feeding the chickens. I also spent a lot of time running across her fields. My grandmother sadly passed last year, and she left this whole estate to me, which my family wasn't pleased about. I decided to leave my job as a lawyer and work full-time on the farm, and I'm so much happier. When my grandmother was alive, she also used part of her fields for wedding venues and events. She also allowed charities to have events on her farm free of charge. 2 months ago, my sister got in contact with me after 4 years of no contact and said she's engaged and asked me if she could use Grandma's field as her wedding venue, as she would like to get married here. The thing is, I can't let go of the past, and I've started therapy, but I told her I need some time to think about it. My first thought was to charge my sister a price for the venue and make it a price she couldn't afford, but that didn't feel right, so I simply said no. Now she's passed my number on to my parents and my other sister, and they're all saying this is my grandmother's farm, and she should be allowed to get married on the farm, and I should even do it for free. My emotions are pretty high right now, and I need to know if I'm the jerk. Tell them this. This is the only home that I've ever known. I will not be used by people who threw me away like yesterday's trash when I was younger and who have not chosen to be part of my life since then. You burned the relationship to the ground years ago. Grandma knew who all of you were as human beings, and she would not be pleased to have you all piling on like you are. Legally, this property belongs to me, and each of you knows why. My property is off limits. Sister may not hold her wedding on my property. If they escalate, tell them that you will consider it trespassing if they step foot on your property and actually follow through when one of your parents does, because one of them will. Not the jerk. I fired our family therapist after she asked for tips. My ex and I have a 12-year-old son who's going through some things lately. We found a therapist and we've been seeing her for a couple of years now. It hasn't been life-changing for me in any way. In fact, it became more of a pointless chore, like making your bed or folding your clothes. I might have gotten a few things out of it, but would not do it again. A few weeks ago, I had told our therapist that it's bizarre to not have to worry about money for the first time in my life. I make good money and I don't have many bills. I'm saving like $1,000 a month. Last week, the therapist asked me if I could start making a copayment. I don't have a copayment because my insurance covers 100% of therapy sessions. I explained that to her, and she said that was true, but maybe I could start paying like $20 cash because she's not making a lot with what my insurance pays her, like a tip. I was at a loss for words. I said, "And I suppose this has no relation to me telling you that I have disposable income from a few weeks ago?" She said of course not. It was like she was asking for a raise. I said I'd think about it. I found nothing about tipping your therapist. I talked to my ex about it and said that I was firing the therapist. She told me not to throw away 2 years of work, and I said this therapist tried to take advantage of me. She offered to pay, and I said I'm not stopping you, but I'm not doing the sessions anymore, and neither is our son. The trust I had in our therapist is broken. I left a voicemail and text message explaining that we weren't in need of services anymore. I haven't heard back. Guess what? Our lives didn't fall apart, and the therapist replied that I totally misunderstood the whole tip thing. Not the jerk, and I'd contact your insurance company. They'll probably want to drop her entirely if they find out about this. Yeah, also, if the therapist is registered with any type of governing body, I would report them. I'm a nurse and registered with my provincial college of nurses. It's unethical for any healthcare provider to ask for any type of gratuity, and if I did so, I would and should be reported and lose my license to practice. Not the jerk. That was trashy, and she needs to bill the insurance for more if she wants a raise. It's fine to think your time is worth more, but there are channels for this sort of thing. One slight issue might be unilaterally canceling the therapist your family has worked with. Your family not falling apart isn't really an indicator of her usefulness. Sounds like you're projecting how you personally feel about therapy onto your other family members. I certainly understand wanting to pursue a different therapist, but maybe wait until a replacement has been secured. I don't know. Everyone sucks here. Firing her was the right thing to do, but you're using this as an excuse to take your son out of therapy. Your son, who is going through things, should not lose the support just because you find it to be a waste of time. You don't see the point in therapy, fine, but don't use "our lives didn't fall apart" as justification for keeping your son from mental health treatment that he needs. The more I think about it, the more I question if you actually did misunderstand what she was saying and spun it because you find therapy worthless. Am I the jerk for not giving my engagement ring to my late fiance's family? I was engaged to John after dating for 4 years. When he proposed, the ring he used was 2 sizes too big. We went to the store that he bought it from 2 weeks before proposing, and he kept the receipt, got the right size, and kept the same style. We did plan to have the wedding after 3 years of planning and saving. 10 months after the proposal, John passed in an accident. I used the savings for wedding to pay for his funeral. The day after the funeral, John's brother came to me asking for the ring. I asked why, and his response was that the ring had been passed down their family for 5 generations. Told him that was BS because I have proof that the ring was bought for me less than a year ago. We argued for it a bit, and he then stormed out. Then I get the call from John's family saying that I'm a liar and demanding the ring. Then I got a letter from their lawyer. In the letter, they also demanded that I reimburse them for costs of John's funeral. So I got myself a lawyer, showed the proof about the ring and how I paid for the funeral in court, and I won. I thought the madness was over until John's sister recently messaged me. She and her boyfriend are engaged but haven't gotten a ring, and she wants John's ring. After I said no, she went crazy and messaged me nonstop demanding it. I blocked her over and over, but she keeps finding a way around it. I was having brunch with my friend. My phone was on the table. A message from his sister popped up, and my friend saw it. My friend knows about everything. I explained her messages, and friend believes I'm the jerk and I should just give her the ring. She told my other friends, and they're all saying the same thing now. Now I'm doubting myself. So, am I the jerk? Extra info about the ring. The ring is from a company that designs jewelry based on movies and mass-produce each style in different sizes. This company started after the year 2000. When we went to the store to get the right size, John asked for ring 1 to be swapped with right size and same style. If he did modify ring 1 with any family diamonds, he would have asked for ring 1 to be resized. After the swap, and when telling his parents about the engagement, I showed them the ring and John told them where he bought it from and about the size swap. His parents never said anything about an heirloom ring and family diamonds. It was after the funeral they started saying that their great-great-great-grandparents were the ones that bought the ring and it's an heirloom. John's parents messaged me about not being able to afford the funeral. I paid for everything for the funeral. His parents didn't pay at all. I guess during my grief, it might have made me forget that his family owned most of the business and housing accommodations in town. It was during court that I found out he had life insurance and that money went to his parents, and it was 2 times the cost of the funeral. Extra info about court. When I received their lawyer's letter, I thought it might be fake, but I called my friend, who's also a lawyer, and I explained the situation to him and asked him to check if the letter was real or fake. He told me to meet him with the letter and all my documents for the ring and funeral. He said the letter is real and he would help me. I did think that after their lawyer saw my proof, that might be the end of the madness, but the next thing I knew, we were in court. Most of the time I was confused, but I just spoke the truth and showed all of my proof. Reasons why John's sister wants the ring. In her first message asking for the ring, she said that John would want her to have it. It would feel like John is part of her next step in her life and let his spirit know that he's not forgotten. To explain why my friends think his sister should have the ring, the friend from brunch who saw the messages from sister and told the others about it, read sister's first message asking for the ring. Friend believes this is a good valid reason for the sister. Friend also believes the ring should actually be used, not stuck in a box somewhere or most likely lost. I pointed out that I did use the ring. I wore it during engagement, court madness with his family, and kept it on for a year after I won the case. Then only wearing the ring on his birthday and anniversary of our first meeting, when he proposed and when he passed. Friend called me a sad, selfish jerk and stormed off. Next thing I know, my other friends started messaging me about me being a jerk and sister should get the ring. After the sister's recent messages, I have called my lawyer friend. I sent him screenshots of her messages, and we got a meeting this week. I'm also thinking my friendship with the friends that say that I'm the jerk should give the ring to his sister. I'm also rethinking my friendship with these friends who say that I'm the jerk and I should give the ring to his sister. Not the jerk. It would be different if the ring had been a family heirloom, but it's clearly not. Perhaps you should get a restraining order or sue for harassment. I'd have your lawyer send a cease and desist letter to the sister demanding that she stop harassing you. Sometimes a lawyer letter can be enough to shut people up, not the jerk. My boss was cheating on his wife, did me over, so I told her. This was about 5 or so years ago. I was working as a server at a pretty nice place. It was a brand new restaurant, so servers as well as managers are still getting their grip on things, and things are changing rapidly as management figured out what works best, etc. We had this assistant GM we'll call Carl that had a terrible superiority complex. He would treat me and the rest of the staff like we were always incompetent, but was super buddy-buddy and friendly with the GM and owner, so nothing was ever said or done about his behavior. Carl was married to his very pregnant wife, who we'll call Sarah, that would come in around lunch quite often to bring him some homemade goodies and say hi. This was incredibly awkward for the staff, as we all knew Carl was hooking up with another server that we'll call Rebecca. Rebecca would also often be working when his wife would come in and would be extra friendly towards her. Carl would kiss his wife and be sweet and loving, etc. I didn't say anything, and neither did anyone else, even though we often talked about how terrible we all felt for Sarah and whether we should, but ultimately nothing was ever said until I'm working a crazy dinner rush, in the weeds, still doing a great job with my tables as I had already been serving for around 8 years at this point, when Carl calls me over to a table. The guests are sitting with their freshly brought out dishes as Carl proceeds to ask me in the most condescending tone, "Can you tell me what's missing from this table?" I proceed to look and realize one of the guests doesn't have a steak knife yet. Totally my job to bring one before steak is served. I messed up. So I say, steak knife, and proceed to turn to go grab one. Carl grabs my arm and forces me to stand there as he tells me how unacceptable it is to forget a steak knife, and that these types of mistakes will not be tolerated and I should be very careful about remembering these things going forward, etc. The guests look very uncomfortable at this point, and because of his raised tone and how close the booths are, I notice the neighboring tables are listening as well. I flushed red and apologized and went to go get the steak knife. Proceeded to do very well the rest of my shift. The next few weeks, my shifts are cut to 2 lunch shifts a week and no dinner shifts, compared to my usual 4 dinner shifts and 3 lunch shifts, running a double one of the days. I became very concerned immediately as I'm living pretty much week to week off my tips and paycheck. I go into my next shift early and ask to speak with the manager. Carl's already in his office waiting. I ask about my schedule, and he proceeds to tell me that they've hired new staff and everyone's hours have been reduced, etc. Okay, only when I go and ask my coworkers, 2 of them complain that they were given my shifts and actually don't want them, and they were upset to be working the weekend, etc. Same thing happens for 2 more weeks before I'm finally able to speak with our GM, who informs me that Carl does the scheduling and did voice the steak knife incident and use that as his rationale that I'm not cut out for dinner shifts. I'm livid, as I really was working so hard, was recognized by my other managers for doing so well, and was never addressed for any other issues, only given praise. This proceeds to happen for another month before I finally get another server job I had applied for pretty much 2 weeks after. I quit the other place. I excel, and I'm quickly promoted to closing the new restaurant, as well as given the best closing shifts because of my work ethic. As all of this is happening, I really kept replaying every conversation I had with Carl and how absolutely rude and demeaning he was to not only me, but everyone else. We often had girls cry during their shift because of his behavior. So I tried to see if I can find his wife on Facebook, as I know her first and last name. I found her right away. And I'm no longer working there, so I decided to send her a message right from my personal account detailing what I saw with him and Rebecca while I was working there. I mean, it was terrible. Rebecca wasn't shy about telling anyone who would listen about the hotels they'd rent for the weekend, what their love life was like, how he would say that his wife just wasn't enough for him anymore, etc. I told her everything with as much detail as possible. She reads the message, but I get no response. 2 weeks later, I hear that they're divorcing, and he's been fired because his conduct was finally revealed to the owner after another server quit on the spot in the middle of a shift because Carl yelled at him in front of the staff about not folding the napkins correctly. Last I heard, Carl moved to a small town in the middle of nowhere where he's the manager at a local diner. His wife remarried and took full custody of their baby. Am I the jerk for refusing to feed my husband's nieces and nephews? I, 26 female, have been with my husband, Caden, 26 male, for 8 years, and we've been married for 4. We have a 2-year-old together, and we're expecting baby number 2. My relationship with Caden's brother and sister-in-law has never been great. She got really weird about me pretty quickly, and things soured from there. Caden told me his sister-in-law was jealous of the fact that I hit it off so well with his mom and sister, but especially his sister, and that his brother had always kind of followed his sister-in-law's lead. Seems his sister-in-law was around the family since she was a kid, and she and my brother-in-law have been together since high school. She always thought she would be like the second daughter for the family, but sister-in-law and her have always clashed a little and were never tight. Caden has been great about standing up for me when needed, and he has shut down his sister-in-law on more than one occasion when she was being rude. One of the things that has resulted from all of this is Caden's sister-in-law insisted I will never be her kid's aunt. They have specifically been told I am not their aunt and they are not to call me Aunt Emmy. I've been kept at a distance from the kids during family gatherings, and generally sister-in-law will ensure I don't interact with them. Caden sees them less as a result because he refuses to have me leave our home so they can visit, something his sister-in-law has tried to insist on. My relationship with sister-in-law is the best though, and we are close. She has a kid the same age as mine, and she'll come over and we hang out with our toddlers. Since she's here so often, I will often have enough food for both kiddos. She has picked up some inspiration from me on how to introduce food to toddlers since she said that her kids eat better since they started hanging out with us. She mentioned it at a family dinner recently because our parents commented how much better her kiddo was eating and the different plate that she used. She said it was all thanks to me and was saying how she really owed me one. Caden's sister-in-law asked why she hangs out with me so much and never spends time with her. It brought up some of the underlying issues simmering between the two of us. She then asked why I never do that for her kids and why I'm not sharing my vast knowledge with her. Caden jumped in and said she has made her feelings clear about me and has ordered me to stay away from her kids, so how am I supposed to do any of that with her or them? The very next day, she asked if the kids could come over for lunch, and I said no. She asked about some other day, and I said no again. She then told me I was a jerk and excluding her kids. I told Caden what happened, and he talked to his brother, or more like fought with him. I do feel kind of bad for the kids and would love to get to know them better, but I don't trust their parents in any of this. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. She's jealous and now wants to horn in on what you and other sister-in-law are doing. I bet if you did have them over, the food wouldn't be right and she'd have all sorts of demands and she would expect your family to pay for it. Or she'd drop them off and disappear for the day. She wants a free babysitter and free food for her kids. Good for you and husband putting a stop to it ever starting. If anything, her family should ask if your kids can come over so you would have a break from being pregnant and all. My boyfriend doesn't want me to post our pregnancy announcement on social media. I'm 24, female, and I've been with my boyfriend, who's 25, for just under 2 years. We celebrate our anniversary in December, and a few months ago we found out that I was pregnant. It wasn't planned, but I've always dreamed about becoming a mother, so I was very happy about it, and he was also very excited about becoming a father when I told him the news. We told our parents and siblings after the first ultrasound at 8 weeks and slowly told our closest friends in the following few weeks. Initially, when we discussed it, we agreed to post an announcement for all of our extended family and friends on Instagram after the first trimester, when I hit 13 weeks. The time came around and I began to suggest various ways of announcing it, planning what pictures to use, captions, etc. But he shut it down and said he thinks it's too early and it's better that we wait until we find out the gender. Well, a month later, we found out that we're having a girl, and once again, I began the discussion of the announcement post, and once again he shut it down and said we should wait until halfway through the pregnancy. I questioned him on this, asking why was he so hesitant and why couldn't he give me an answer other than he doesn't think it's the right time. My Instagram account is private and followed only by friends and families I know, while his is public. He's a professional athlete in his sport, and he has thousands of followers who he does not know. I thought he may have concerns over his private life mixing with his public life, so I suggested we only post the announcement on my account, as most of his friends follow me anyway, and he can tell his extended family each individually. He said he didn't care about that, but wouldn't elaborate on why he doesn't want me to post about our pregnancy. In the meantime, I also noticed that he changed the captions of some of his Instagram posts with me in them to remove any indication of how long we've been together. For example, last year he posted a lovely post celebrating our 1-year anniversary, and I noticed that he changed the caption a couple of days ago to remove any reference to an anniversary or that we had been together 1 year. I'm wondering if he's feeling insecure at how early on in the relationship we're pregnant and is having doubts over the pregnancy, or if there's someone that we both know that he doesn't want to see the post. Has anyone else been in this situation before? Should I be worried or concerned? Edit. He comes back from traveling tomorrow morning. I'll ask him about the caption, but will also post on my own private account for my friends and family to see. I can't see why he should have any problem with that, and if he refuses to tell me why he doesn't want me to post, then I can't see why it should stop me. Update. My boyfriend got home at 6 a.m. the next morning. I was going to let him sleep before confronting him about it, but this had been keeping me up all night, and I just needed to get an answer. The consensus on here is that he's cheating on me, or was cheating on me, and is trying to cover up his tracks. And honestly, setting my bias aside and trying to think rationally about this all, that definitely seemed like the most likely scenario in my head. I asked him why he changed the caption, and he was dismissive and tried to brush it off, initially saying something along the lines of how it wasn't a big deal, and he just thought the new wording sounded better, and it let him go to sleep. I snapped and told him that made no sense, and then accused him of seeing someone else. His demeanor changed, and he suddenly became very attentive to the conversation. He vehemently denied ever cheating on or with me, and immediately gave me his phone and laptop bag and told me to look through whatever I wanted to and that he had nothing to hide. I then confronted him again about the caption and about why he didn't want to post the pregnancy announcement. I figured he had finally explained it all to me if he really wanted to prove he wasn't cheating. I was right. He caved a lot sooner than I thought he would and started explaining to me his side of things. Basically, the story he gave me goes something like this. Shortly before I hit 13 weeks, he went out with his teammate and best friend, Jay, and some of Jay's friends who had come over to visit from their hometown. My boyfriend had met these guys a couple times before, but wasn't close to them. He was planning on telling Jay the news when everyone left and was very excited about it. Somewhere in the conversation, they stumbled across the topic of fatherhood and essentially agreed that having a kid before you're 35 would ruin your life, be a burden, etc. My boyfriend apparently spoke up about how he thought being a dad would be fun, and how he thinks he'd like to be a father in the near future. This allegedly turned into a roasting session where they would all take turns ripping into my boyfriend about how he would be an awful father. That wouldn't suit him at all. They feel sorry if he has any kids in the future. It was supposed to be some lighthearted banter between friends, poking fun at my boyfriend's intelligence and maturity, but it really upset him, and obviously he didn't end up telling Jay the news. He said that he didn't want to post about it because he was worried that Jay and his other teammates would have the same reaction to him being a father, and he didn't want to have something that he was really excited about be ruined for him. He said that the caption change was for the same reason. He was worried that even if they were happy for him, they would still find something to rip into him about once they realized I had gotten pregnant so early in the relationship. He said they wouldn't have paid enough attention to remember when we actually got together, so he changed the caption to make it more ambiguous and somewhat suggest we had been together for longer than a year at that point. It's worth noting that he had told me before today that his teammates already knew the news, and I hadn't questioned him about it as I saw no need to. I asked him why he didn't tell me this before if it was true, and he said he was embarrassed about it all and felt like he was being oversensitive to their comments since their relationship as teammates was also built on a lot of banter and ripping into each other was pretty normal for them. He also didn't want me to think he was having any doubts about the baby or the relationship because that was not the case. During this whole conversation, he was visibly upset and trying to hold back tears. He seemed very genuine with his explanation, and there are a few small details that back it up. As I mentioned, Jay was his best friend, and they would go out for drinks at least twice a week. But in the last month, he didn't see him at all outside of work and stayed home for the majority of the time when he didn't have to travel. I thought it had to do with me being pregnant and wanting to spend more time with me, but it may also just be that he's distancing himself from his friend because he was still hurt. I also remember when he came home that night, he was supposed to tell his teammate the news. He had been giddy with excitement beforehand, but when he came home, I asked him how it went, and he said something along the lines of, "Yeah, it went well," but that he was too tired to elaborate on it and wanted to go to sleep. I've looked through his phone and emails and found nothing incriminating. I can't rule out for certain any infidelity, but deep down in my gut and in my mind, I think it's safe to say that I believe him. He's asked me countless times what he can do to prove that he hasn't cheated and is intent on proving that he's faithful. He's even agreed to do a joint post on both of our Instagram accounts to announce our baby to all of his friends and followers. I guess I will never know for sure, but I'm choosing to believe my boyfriend and focus on our relationship and our baby. A. Having babies with boyfriend or girlfriend is stupid. If you're not serious enough to get married yet, you're not serious enough to be bringing kids into the world. They will grow up without a proper family, and this is both of your fault. B. If your boyfriend is really that pathetic to not stand up to his friends when they insult his ability to be a father, then those friends are 100% right. He is not man enough to be a father. He is basically a sad little boy. Professional athlete? Cool. But high-paid job is not what makes a good man or a good father. Your boyfriend is pathetic and will make a sad excuse for a father, and you should feel embarrassed to be carrying his child. Would I be the jerk for not inviting my closest friend and her husband to my wedding? I have known my best friend, Paige, and her husband, Carl, from university days. We were also flatmates for a few years. I was much closer to Paige, and my relationship with Carl could be, at best, described as distant friend. Last year, when I was on a dating app, I happened to come across Carl's profile, stating that he was looking for something casual. His profile was fairly detailed and consistent with what I knew of him. After some contemplation, I decided to share this information with Paige. I told her that I was unaware of their marriage dynamic and was in no way judging, but I did feel she should know that this information is out there. Paige told me that it was a case of impersonation and that they planned to file a complaint with the cybercrime cell. She also explained that I should never bring this up with Carl and that she would not tell him how she got this information. I agreed, and we left the matters at that. However, since this incident, things have changed quite a bit. Carl has stopped all forms of communication entirely. I'm not invited to their house for any celebrations or gatherings. Previously, I was invited frequently. When I invite them both, Carl has declined the invite, through Paige, every single time. Carl has not acknowledged any gifts I've given him lately. Recently, I decided to have an open conversation with Paige. I told her that I felt that the group dynamic had shifted quite noticeably. I also asked if it had anything to do with the dating profile. I requested clarity on the situation to help me draw my own boundaries. This is what Paige had to say. Carl still doesn't know her source of information about the dating app and that I shouldn't ever bring this up with him. I wasn't planning to. Me never being invited to their home or any of their plans, even with our common friends for over a year, even though I live 20 minutes away, is just a matter of chance. She wants all of Carl's interaction with me to happen via her because she wants it like that. She said so explicitly. I shouldn't create a fuss and that it shouldn't matter to me if someone doesn't like me, while also simultaneously saying that if Carl didn't like me, she wouldn't tell me because that's private between them. I should take whatever response Carl gives me in my stride. I should invite Carl to my wedding, but not directly, and the invite must be through her, and that I shouldn't worry if he refuses to attend. I should expect Carl to not attend, but if he does, then I should treat him like a pleasant surprise. This whole situation has become uncomfortable to me, and I'm now contemplating not inviting them both to my wedding. Would I be the jerk for not inviting my closest friend and her husband to my wedding? No, you would be the jerk if you do invite them. Why are you still keeping these people in your life? They are insane. Not the jerk. What I think is you caught Carl trying to or in the process of cheating, and were being a good friend by telling Paige. Paige has made her choice to stay with Carl. I get the feeling he knows it was you, despite Paige's claim of not revealing her source, because he probably saw your profile on the site around the same time he got caught. I wouldn't invite either of these people. There are way too many conditions on your relationship with them, and it's setting you up to fail. She's no longer your friend, and neither is her husband. It would be best to cut contact with them. I really don't appreciate being gaslighted when I try to talk to you directly. Not being invited to things for a year is obviously on purpose. I don't know what's going on, but I'm not going to be involved to try to figure it out. If you'd like to have a conversation that makes sense, let me know. Honestly though, I just ghost them. It's not worth the energy. I think Carl probably tried to spin it and say that OP was flirting with him on there, but because he rejected her, that's why she said she would tell his wife. But that's just a theory. A Karen theory. My Karen mother-in-law cleans my house without asking and demands to be paid for it. I, female 31, gave birth to my beautiful son a week ago. Unfortunately, there were some complications, so I was only released yesterday, but I'm so grateful to be home with our baby. When my water initially broke, my husband, who's 33, and I were at home, and I happened to be standing on my bedroom carpet. Cleaning was obviously not the priority, so I threw some towels down and we left for the hospital. During the time we were in the hospital, my mother-in-law, who's 59, kindly offered to feed our dogs for us, and we were very appreciative of her help. It was only once we got home yesterday that I saw my mother-in-law had left a receipt and a note stuck to the fridge, saying that she had cleaned my bedroom carpet and wanted to be reimbursed. She had also taken it upon herself to clean the rest of the house while she was at it, and all in all, would like a day's pay at $25 per hour plus $200 worth of products. Now, while it was nice of her to clean my carpet and then the rest of the house, neither of us asked her to do this. My husband wrote her the following text. "Hello, Mom. We really appreciate your help over the last few days while OP was in the hospital. It was great having someone over to look after the dogs. We noticed your note and receipt on the fridge, and we're a little upset that you took it upon yourself to 1. Snoop through the house, as neither of us had told you about OP's water breaking in the bedroom, and 2. Go out and buy hundreds of dollars worth of cleaning products, and 3. Charging us for your time and the aforementioned products. We would also like to ask where these cleaning supplies are, as if we're paying for them, we would certainly like to get our money's worth. When we entrusted you with the dogs, we really thought you were helping us out of the goodness of your heart and not giving you an opportunity to make a quick buck. We are family, and we are hurt that you would do something like this while OP was so unwell." My mother-in-law immediately responded to my husband, saying that she did what she did out of the kindness of her heart, and she cannot believe we would be so ungrateful. I've also received some texts from extended family members saying that mother-in-law didn't have to help me, but did so despite her advanced age out of love. I've had to turn off my phone so that I don't have to deal with all of the texts, but my husband is still getting a lot of hate from his family because we are manipulating the situation and making mother-in-law the bad guy when she was only trying to get the house ready for the baby. I'm quite upset by this whole thing, but my husband is now saying that maybe we should pay her to get the extended family off our back and just enjoy this time as new parents rather than dealing with all of this. I'm not okay with paying his mom for anything. She sent another text to my husband earlier saying she would be happy to gift us the products, take it off the bill, but she would still like to be paid for her time given that she dealt with a biohazard. Not the jerk. It's only help if the recipient actually wants it. Otherwise, it's imposing yourself on them. Charging for it is only doubling down on the problem because now it's forcing unwanted commercial services on you. If she's done it out of the kindness of her heart, the most she could possibly ask for is the cleaning supplies because that's the only thing she is out financially, and I'd even be giving that the side eye. The kindness of one's heart doesn't come with a price tag. My Karen girlfriend keeps choosing my dad over me. What should I do? My girlfriend, Shay, who's 27, and I, male 26, are on a small vacation to my hometown. She's only ever met my dad and extended family, my aunt, uncle, and cousins, over the phone, so I thought this would be a great opportunity to introduce everyone properly. But since we've arrived, Shay's behavior towards my dad has been seriously off-putting. For example, I thought it would be fun if we all went horseback riding. My younger cousins do it as a hobby, so I thought it would be nice to do an activity we'd all like. But Shay wouldn't even get on the horse because she said she was scared. It's been years since I've been on a horse, but they were so calm and honestly not a problem at all. I offered to stay with her while the others enjoyed themselves, but she insisted I go because my dad already offered to stay behind. He doesn't usually go horseback riding either. It was weird that she didn't want me there too, but I let it be. There have been other instances too, like how she asked my dad to show her around town instead of staying with me and meeting my old friend from high school. It was an impromptu meetup. We literally ran into him while we were looking for somewhere to get lunch with my dad, but it would have been nice if she made the effort to get to know him instead of going out with my dad. The final straw was when we were all at my aunt's house for dinner. Shay made cupcakes, baking is kind of her thing, and she made some chocolate and peanut butter ones specifically because they're my dad's favorite. She made a few different types of cupcakes, but none of the others were my other relatives' favorite flavors. When we got back to our Airbnb, I confronted her. I know Shay's dad left when she was a teen, and they're no contact, so I figured she might be clinging to my dad because it's nice to have a fatherly presence and not something that she's used to. I asked her, jokingly, to rein in her daddy issues and to stop being so clingy with my dad. She blew up at me, telling me that she's trying her best to fit in and that I've put no effort in making her feel welcome. Neither of us were willing to compromise, and I ended up sleeping somewhere else for the night. I need to talk things out with her today, but before I do, I want to make sure I'm not the one in the wrong. Sorry, bud. I think you're the one with the daddy issues. I don't see anything wrong about the way she was acting towards your dad based on what you described. So you're mad because your girlfriend was too nice to your dad and was trying too hard to fit in and be friendly? That makes absolutely zero sense. The horseback riding thing is totally normal. She doesn't like riding and didn't want you to miss out. 2. You wanted to blow off plans with your dad to visit your friend. This is rude to me, and she didn't want your dad bailed on. Brownie points to her for trying to be polite to your family. 3. Cupcakes. Why do you care? It's a nice gesture she made a bunch for everyone in your family. I want to hear more about how she feels, and why is she saying you haven't made her feel included or welcome? She's the one in a new environment trying to impress people. That's stressful, and you're being weird about this. OP. My aunt and uncle are just as important, and so are my cousins. My mom isn't around anymore, so my aunt is the biggest female influence I have in my life. Shay knows this, but hasn't put in any thought to spending more time with her. Maybe I'm wrong, but I thought bonding with her would have been more of a prime focus. I'm not insecure about this. It's just undeniably strange that she's doing so much to spend time with my dad and not putting in that much effort with my other family members. No, it's really weird that you bailed on hanging out with your dad to hang out with some guy you went to high school with. OP. They were one of my best friends in high school, and we both, unfortunately, lost touch with each other in our college years. Also, my dad said it was fine for us both to go with my friend. He really didn't care about it. Okay, so if she is an outsider, which admittedly she is, why would she blow off meeting an old friend of mine and learning about these old stories and memories? If the roles were reversed, I would love to chat with one of her old friends and see what she was like before we met, get some funny stories about back in the day, etc. Out of curiosity, where did you end up sleeping? I slept at a friend's house. A few people live there, so before you ask, it wasn't like I was having some one-on-one time with someone else. A female friend? There's 6 people who live there. Of course a few of them were women, but they weren't why I was staying there. Has your dad stolen a girlfriend before? Do you have a reason to not trust him? Also, it makes sense she would make cupcakes for the primary parent and not extended family. OP. No, my father has never stolen one of my girlfriends before. This isn't some soap opera. As for the cupcake thing, I get where you're coming from, but the only family I have is my dad, aunt, uncle, and 3 cousins. That's it. And yet she only made my dad's favorite. Even if she made my dad's and the other relatives' favorite, I would say that's fair. But it's the fact that everything revolves around my dad is what made me question it. Wrongfully so, according to the comments, which I accept. Update. Okay, I get it. I'm wrong. Even though a lot of you were really harsh in the comments of my last post, I appreciate the honesty and I think I needed it. I read every comment and I understand it was wrong of me to joke about a potentially triggering topic around my girlfriend. Me joking about it was a jerk thing to do, and any concerns I had, I should have said it in a much better way. I went back to the Airbnb today, and you'll never guess who was there with my girlfriend. Yes, it was my father. He was in the kitchen cleaning up what looked like leftovers from breakfast. He said he stopped by a cafe that's at the end of the street and bought us breakfast, but I wasn't there when he arrived. By that point, Shay told him everything about our argument, and he wasn't happy. Where was Shay when I arrived back? My dad said she was in the shower and getting ready, and that they were going to my aunt's house looking for me. They both presumed that's where I was, considering I wasn't at the Airbnb, nor was I with my dad. We talked, and I helped him clean up their breakfast. While I did, I saw the receipt in the to-go bag. Considering the cafe he bought the breakfast is in literally 5 to 10 minutes away, and he came straight from there to the Airbnb, it's safe to assume he spent at least 2 hours, maybe 2.5 hours at the Airbnb before I arrived. But sure, that's normal. I didn't bring this up or even question it. I've learned my lesson about bringing up stupid and immature concerns. My dad reiterated a lot of the things people said in my post, like how Shay didn't want me to miss out on the horseback riding, that she wanted to give me time with my friend without being the third wheel, and he said that his favorite recipe flavor came up while they were walking around town together. It was an embarrassing conversation, and while we didn't discuss everything I wanted, it's a start. When my dad left, I spoke to Shay and apologized. She was really quiet, and when we talked about it further, she was crying a lot. The only thing she really said is that we have underlying issues from before this vacation and that this whole ordeal just adds to it. We were supposed to go to a game night at my aunt and uncle's tonight, but Shay said she isn't going and that she wants some time to think. I respect that. I don't know if Shay wants me to stay at the Airbnb tonight or not, but I'm glad she didn't immediately break up with me like some of you suggested. My dude, I hope you see this. Your whole story reads like you either have self-confidence issues or you've had the wool over your eyes before, presumably not involving your dad. What you are creating here is called a self-fulfilling prophecy. You're looking for a problem that isn't there and potentially creating the catalyst to make it or something like it actually happen. For whatever reason, you don't trust your girlfriend here. And if there are underlying issues from before this trip, I get the feeling you might not have trusted her ever. She's in this relationship for a reason, dude, and the reason is not your dad. Look past your insecurities and discover what you've got here before it's too late. OP, I don't have any self-confidence issues, but I'll take what you said and really think about it. I didn't think there were any issues between me and my girlfriend before this trip. She's been nothing but supportive of me, and I always imagined a future with her. The insinuation that something happened when Dad was there for a few hours for breakfast with, "But sure, that's normal." Maybe I'm naive, but he came with food for all three of them and then potentially helped console girlfriend while waiting for OP to arrive, especially as they didn't know when OP would arrive and he would normally wake up earlier. I could absolutely see my parents doing that if I pulled something like this with a partner. OP is either super insecure or just really wanted to justify cheating on his girlfriend by being able to say his girlfriend was trying to hook up with his dad. Either way, get therapy, because wow, what are you even doing? OP was not overreacting. It's obvious that his girlfriend had daddy issues and was throwing herself at his dad. And of course, the dad is loving it because he's an old guy who probably doesn't get much attention. So his son's girlfriend throwing herself at him like this, dude was just loving every bit of it. OP should have seen this red flag for what it was and found someone who had some respect for him and wouldn't throw herself at his dad. She should be choosing you, bro, not your dad. And for everyone saying you're in the wrong, would they still feel that way if dad's new girlfriend was throwing herself at you and choosing you over your dad? Actually, they would probably love that. All these people are backwards. Am I the jerk for giving my daughter a name my grandma hates? I, 27 female, gave birth to me and my husband's, 31 male, first baby almost 2 months ago. She's perfect, and I was so excited to have my family meet her. I have 3 older sisters who all have kids as well. A fun tradition that my family does is to have a small get-together once the baby is about 2 to 3 months old. We don't announce the baby's name until after the birth to make it a surprise. At the little party, we give the parents a bunch of little gifts that have the new baby's name on them. My grandmother always quilts a beautiful baby blanket and embroiders the baby's name. She's done this for all my sisters and cousins. The issue is the name my husband and I chose for our daughter. For context, my grandma has a unique history with her own name. She was born as Lucille, but from the time she was 8, she told every single person she met that her name was Barbara. She did this for years, until even her family called her Barbara. She even got her name legally changed. When I was a kid, I asked her why she changed it. She simply said she liked Barbara better. It became a family joke, but she never seemed upset about it and always laughed with us. My husband's grandmother raised him from when he was a baby to when she passed away when he was 19. Her favorite celebrity was Lucille Ball. She and her husband used to watch I Love Lucy all the time together. He misses her very much and said that he would love to honor her in some way. Her name was Mary, but we chose to have that as our daughter's middle name. We decided that Lucy is a name we both loved and would honor his grandmother and maybe make mine chuckle a bit. After I gave birth, me and my husband were FaceTiming my entire family when we announced the name. A few of my relatives laughed and said it was cute, but my grandma was dead silent. When I asked her what was wrong, she demanded to know why I chose Lucy. I was shocked and confused. I began to try and explain, but she suddenly hung up. This greatly dampened the mood. My grandma wouldn't answer any calls from me afterwards. I asked my oldest sister, and she said that my grandma was apparently offended and thought we were mocking her. She said she's not coming to the party in a few weeks to meet my daughter in person and that she's not giving the baby quilt to us unless we apologize and change our daughter's name. I don't know why it's escalated so much. My grandma has always been kind. I have no idea what to do. Births in my family are always celebrated and happy events, but this has ruined it. I almost feel like some of my relatives are ignoring me because they don't want to pick sides, but I don't even understand why there's a fight. Dealing with this along with my newborn has been incredibly stressful. My family is puzzled as well, but most of them are saying I shouldn't have chosen a name I knew my grandmother disliked, or at least asked her about it first. Am I the jerk? Edit. I've seen a lot of comments asking why I didn't even think to ask my grandmother about the name, or why I would pick the name she obviously disliked. Like I said earlier, when I was a kid, she just said she liked Barbara better. That's what I've known my whole life, so I didn't really dig into it much. Now I feel like an idiot. I honestly never intended to hurt her feelings. I never even considered that she changed it for any deeper reason than just an aesthetic preference. I don't know too much specifically about any childhood issues she had, but I do know her dad passed when she was about 6, so maybe that has something to do with it. I'm not planning to ask her for specifics because I don't want to open any more old wounds that I already have. For now, I'm taking a few comment suggestions, and I've been planning to write her a handwritten note apologizing, explaining everything, and asking to talk. She has a bit of a hard time with technology, so I think this will be a good way to show I genuinely want to discuss this and never meant to hurt her. I'm still not entirely sure about what to do with our name, but for now, my #1 priority is getting into contact with her and fixing our relationship. Another question that I've seen a lot is why my husband and I didn't just name our daughter Mary, or why I didn't use my grandmother's preferred name somewhere with my daughter. I have a good amount of nieces and nephews, and 2 of my nieces already have Barbara as a middle name, so I thought I'd do something a bit different. I like it, but I don't prefer it as my daughter's first name. As for my husband, he has only 1 niece, and she's already named Mary. I didn't want my daughter to have to share a name with her cousin, so that's why we tried to come up with a different way to honor his grandmother. Another group of comments I've seen have been joking why I ever thought that this would make her chuckle. My family doesn't joke around about it too much, but every now and then someone will say something along the lines of, "What do you think you're going to change your name to next?" And she would just let out a couple of laughs. This led me to believe that she was lighthearted about the whole thing. Looking back, I'm just now realizing that was only polite laughter and I don't think she enjoyed it. I never thought about it when I was little, so I went my entire life thinking she was fine with everything. I feel awfully guilty now, and I'll be sure to apologize to her for that as well once I see her again. Not the jerk, but there's a lot more to this story about why your grandma changed her name. Otherwise, there wouldn't have been such a dramatic reaction. You can name your kid whatever you want, and to be honest, for your grandma to make such a big deal over something like this that has zero significance to anyone but her, to the point of punishing you and your grandkid, is malevolent, childish, and downright mean. You have 2 choices. Change your kid's name to appease a woman who won't explain and won't be around long, or name your kid what you want and not have a quilt or a goodwill from your grandma. It could be that in time your grandma will settle down, but perhaps she won't ever. It's your choice, but whatever you choose, you're not the jerks. You're the jerk. Even though you didn't name your daughter after your grandmother, it feels inappropriate to choose a name that seems derived from a living family member without asking them about it first, especially as you know how your own grandmother dislikes her birth name. Well, what do you think? Should OP change her baby's name to make her grandma happy or not? Please let us know. You name your baby what you want, and anybody who throws a big deal about it, that's on them. You gotta stop appeasing these people who think the world revolves around them. I don't know what kind of issues you got, But your issues have nothing to do with what I choose to name my baby. Am I the jerk for not letting my nephew use my car for prom, but said I might let his sister use it? I, 32 male, have a nephew, Josh, who's 18, and a niece, Sarah, who's 16, and this argument came up when visiting my sister. My car is a very modified classic car, a 72 Challenger with a modern motor swap, 6-speed manual, and more mods, putting out over 1,000 horsepower. It's not a beginner driver-friendly car. Josh didn't get his license until 3 months ago, and I'm pretty sure that he messed with the numbers to take the test for the third time. I've seen him drive once, and even offered to ride with him before to help pump his hours up and to continue to drive so he can feel more comfortable. Sarah goes to car shows with me and has a modified Miata that she drives everywhere. She got her license 2 weeks after turning 16 and has had it for 8 months now. She drove with me every day after getting her permit and just has that drive to drive. Before anyone says I have my favorite, Josh and I game every night, and I built him a custom PC for getting honor roll. He's amazing at tech, loves gaming, and if he decides to continue, I will be paying for his college and will offer him a job at my business, which offers specialized tech services. I've told both of them the dollar amounts I have saved up that will be for them for the future. If they want to use it for school, training, down payment on a house, travel, it will be theirs, as long as they can tell me they have a plan. I bought both of them their first cars after they got their licenses and try to keep everything as close to fair as I can with them. I was over for dinner, and Josh said he can't wait for prom and was asking if he could use my car to drive his date. I told him I wasn't comfortable with him driving my car and that I would gladly drive him and his date and even wear his suit and funny hat to be his driver. He threw a fit and said that I would let Sarah take the car if she asked. I said if she kept driving and showing the control she has, I would consider it. I told him I feel he has not been driving long enough to be able to control this car and that I would be worried for his and his date's safety. I also told him I would trust him with my PC before I'd even let Sarah play The Sims on it, and it's just how they are different people with different interests. My sister said I should have just said no, but I've always told them I will never lie to them and I'll always explain myself because they're almost adults and they deserve to hear the truth. However, I won't be rude to them. He has since not played games with me and not responded to my text. His father says that I'm the jerk. His sister said I should have just said no, but now should just let him use the car. Sarah says she would be scared to drive the car. Our parents said I should have just said no. Am I the jerk? Dude's 32, plays video games with his nephew every night, puts money away for the niece and nephew. I think it's time he grows up and finds outside interests and let the parents rent their son a supercar. Seems like a really weird situation. OP. I run my own tech company. My wife passed from cancer 4 years ago. I decided to live my life the way I want, and that includes spending time with my family. I don't drink and I don't smoke. My house has been paid off for a few years. My bills are my business, keeping the lights on and my employees paid and happy, and insurance. I'm not going to be a slave, and if I can keep them from having to slave away, I will. Update. My parents returned from snowbirding, and so we decided that they would use my house to host Mother's Day. I won't go into detail, but after being told this, I made a nice dinner for my family and had everyone over. I tried to talk with Josh, but he was still obviously upset that I did not change my mind to let him use the car. At one point, while hosting outside, I hear a thunk, and Josh's dad gets a smirk on his face. Sarah goes pale and just mutters "He didn't." The family goes to see what the source of the noise was and finds Josh putting a bat away and a very obvious dent in my fender. A wave of calm comes over me and I know exactly what to do. "Get in," I tell him, firmly. After a minute of this, he hops in the passenger seat and I take off. For legal reasons, I will not explain exactly how I drove my car, but the Happened in Mexico crew would be proud. After we get back to my house, he's pale and I need a new set of tires. My sister yells at me that he could have been hurt. His father is quietly drinking my beer and my dad is trying to help Josh walk, with the adrenaline pumping through him. Sarah mutters "Told you so," as I tell my sister that she and her husband have to pay to fix my fender or else I'll get the authorities involved. My mother is crying upset and the day was ruined as people packed up and left and more words were said yelled. Currently, the car I bought for Josh is sitting in my driveway. I've already fixed my fender and sent a bill to my sister, who told me to shove it and that family doesn't treat family this way. I've called my buddy who's the local sheriff and can have charges pressed. I do have video footage of him willfully damaging my property. Josh apologized for everything. The drive was the wake-up call he needed and said he would get a job to pay for fixing my car, even though his mother has told him it's my problem to deal with. He said he was being a stupid kid and needed to grow up. I told him on top of fixing my car, he now gets to take Sarah's place of cleaning my work building and garage. His car is now just my car again, and he needs to figure out all the rides he needs to keep everyone happy. He told me to come get the PC I built him, but I told him to hold on to it for now. The bill? A little over $2,000. Luckily, I had the car painted last year and still had some mixed paint with the hardener in it. Worked the dent out. I was able to replace everything that needed to be replaced, but vintage cars are not cheap to work on. Try to get me fired? Enjoy the end of your law career. I'm John. I worked in a pizza shop back when I was in college. I worked with Sarah, a vindictive lady who would stir up a lot of drama. Sarah would pick a target and then bully them into quitting. Where I'm at, college students can receive welfare if their parents earn less than a certain threshold. I was ineligible for student support due to my parents' income, even though they didn't support me and I desperately needed this job. Matt, a new hire, quit after Sarah's harassment. Sarah's attention then turned to me. Sarah would approach my supervisor and spout BS like, "Hey, Mr. Supervisor, I asked John where the snake is and he said the snake is cutting pizzas." This while the supervisor was actually cutting pizzas. She would shout at me with extreme hostility. She wouldn't warn me if pans were hot, a major sin in the kitchen. She conspired with her friends to accuse me of slacking off, even though they had never complained about me until Matt quit. This took a toll on me. My hours were cut, impacting both my financial and mental well-being. I even considered dropping out of college because I was struggling to afford rent. Sarah was illegally claiming students' welfare despite being employed by the pizza shop. You can only claim the welfare if you're unemployed. Sarah, in the first year of her law degree, was also aspiring to become a lawyer. The thing about being a lawyer is that you need to be admitted to the bar to begin practicing. The law industry is very strict. Even proven allegations of plagiarism in college would make one permanently ineligible to become a lawyer. Frankly, she was stupid for defrauding the government. There's an anonymous complaint line for welfare fraud. Most of the time, the welfare department never follows up. Occasionally, however, they would send officials to investigate. This was one of those few times they followed up. I sent an anonymous tip stating the business, her schedule, her name, and her number. I was on shift when some officials from the welfare department came in, informing us that multiple complaints were made against Sarah. I think my boss could have just told them to scram since they probably didn't have a warrant, but instead of doing that, he licked their shoes, showing them all of the CCTV footage. The officials then questioned Sarah. She panicked, confessing to everything. I felt no sympathy for her. As a law student, she should have known to remain silent. Long story short, Sarah received a suspended sentence, which would most certainly disqualify her from becoming a lawyer. She dropped out of college while I continued working at the pizza shop and eventually graduated with an associate's. I have an alright job now. Friend used me as bait for a guy she didn't tell me she liked. When I, female 18, was about a year out of high school, I started working at a restaurant in a much wealthier community than the working class one I had grown up in. I started as a hostess, then got promoted to waitstaff. After a while, I started to bond with this girl, Gretchen, female 18, who was a hostess. She relied on me to vent to and to share all of her troubles with. Her parents were not nice, only caring about money and social status. I also started hearing about how she was having trouble with infighting and backstabbing among this friend group, many of whom also worked at the restaurant. The restaurant was a place where a lot of young people from the area hung out. I felt bad for her, but I also enjoyed her sense of humor and intellect. And we shared a lot of similar tastes in music and style, so she and I became good friends. At one point, she introduced me to this guy, Chris, who was 18, that she knew. He and I instantly had chemistry, and I could tell he was very into me. He started coming around the restaurant a lot, sitting in my section, and one day when Gretchen wasn't there, he asked for my number. It felt like the friends I had always wanted were finally coming together, like my life was about to launch. All of these people lived in their parents' giant opulent mansions in this very upscale town, driving luxury cars their parents gave them, while I would slink back to my broken down Honda that I'd park in a hidden spot and drive to my family's tiny house in the working class town with its broken down pickup trucks on cement blocks in people's yards, feeling like an alien in both worlds. I was slightly older than some of my new friends, being a year out of high school, while most of them had just graduated, but felt worlds less sophisticated than they appeared to be. Anyway, I didn't really understand why she was so eager to introduce us. Why didn't she want him for herself? He was very cute. It was only later in retrospect that I looked back on the way she introduced us and realized she was using me to bait him to come around the restaurant. So he and I started to hook up. I didn't get why he wanted to be so secret about it at first, but I'll admit that he was 10 times hotter than any guy I ever dated, and I let myself get swept up into a mostly physical relationship. He asked me not to tell Gretchen because he could tell she was into him, and although I thought that was silly as she had introduced us, so obviously if she had ever had any romantic feelings for him, she was over it, but I reluctantly agreed. Not my proudest moment. Gretchen and I began to hang out more and more and became BFFs. We began to spend every free moment together. My secret hooking up with Chris felt more and more deceitful, and I cooled it down with him a little. But I was young and didn't know how to handle the situation, and I'm sure I did everything wrong. I thought that I was beginning to fall in love with Chris, but didn't like being a secret hookup, so just sort of let it continue in secret. I'll admit this wasn't smart or good. After a while, I got a job at another restaurant, as there was too much drama at that restaurant, and I could make more money at this new place and wanted to go to college. But I continued to hang out with the people I met through the first restaurant. Gretchen and I went Christmas shopping together one day at the mall and took a break to eat lunch. That's when I accidentally got a glimpse of her Christmas present shopping list as she checked it off. She had high dollar values listed next to the names of all these high status, wealthy, good looking, and cool people that I suddenly realized she was desperately trying to become friends with. $100 here, $200 there, and then there was my name, supposedly her best friend, with $5 listed next to it. It instantly made my heart sink. I don't care about expensive gifts, but it made me realize how little she valued me, with an actual dollar sign to prove it. Nobody owes me anything, but I had already spent over $50 for her Christmas gift, and I felt like a schmuck, realizing that we weren't actually best friends, and she saw me as someone to spend time with until better people came along. Among the names of her high-value people that she was desperate to become friends with, that she was willing to spend all of her parents' money to try to win over, was Chris, the guy that she introduced me to, who I was now seeing. She had $200 next to his name. I began to feel sick to my stomach. I didn't say anything to her, as I probably shouldn't have looked over at the list in the first place. But then something happened that really made my blood boil. She began to tell me how much she was in love with Chris, that she was sure he was her soulmate, that she thought about him every day, all day. If she had said even a fraction of this to me when she introduced him to me, there's no way I would have hooked up with him. I suddenly felt all kinds of emotions swirling around at once. Why had she withheld this information from me? And why was she telling me this now? I began to realize she had been using me to keep him around. Then she started going on and on about how she spent all night on the phone with him the night before, which I knew was a lie because he was with me. I sat there seething and beginning to hate her, and finally interrupted her to say, "None of that is true. He wasn't on the phone with you last night." She got this look on her face that I will never forget, instant knowing and aware that I not only caught her in her fantasyland delusional lie, but also knowing why I knew what he did the night before. She just sat there looking into my face and me looking back at her. I relished the look of hate and betrayal that had come over her face. I gave it right back to her. You could tell that she never expected little, stupid me to betray her this way. I was just supposed to be her lapdog, always there for her with no needs or wants of my own. Friendship over. She told everyone from the restaurant about what an evil, backstabbing jerk I was to steal her man from her, and all of my friends from that job stopped talking to me. But you know what? Forget her and forget them. Okay, so friendship over, but what about Chris? How did that story end? OP. Here's what I replied to someone else. He and I stopped being friends with benefits and tried to maintain a platonic friendship after that. But he had come around, still wanting to hook up, and I did give in now and then, hate to admit it, and then eventually we just decided being friends wasn't working. I'm now married. This was a few years back. I did Google him recently, and he's also married and living in a very upscale community with his beautiful blonde wife and a tiny little house with a view of the San Francisco Bay. My Karen sister-in-law ate my dinner, so I kicked her out. My husband's sister moved in with us after she had a major argument about the baby's name. They're expecting and she's 7 months in. She's known to be picky and refuses to eat what we normally cook. We only cook her favorite food, which I can't eat. Allergies, yay. Every day at dinner, I have to figure out what to eat since she only eats food that I'm allergic to. Last night, my husband agreed that he had cooked for her, then he'd cook for us separately. I got home after a long day at work and found out that sister-in-law convinced my husband to only cook the meal she wanted and cancel on the meal he and I planned to have. I saw them eating together in the kitchen. My husband apologetically said his sister convinced him to eat with her and not cook the meal I wanted us both to have. I said it was fine, then went to order some food from the restaurant. I went to take a shower and did some work on my laptop. Then I came downstairs to find my order placed on the kitchen counter. It was open and someone ate the majority of it. I turned around and there was sister-in-law standing there saying that she woke up hungry and couldn't resist the smell that was coming out of the box. I lost it and yelled at her, asking why did she do this? But she said that she did save me some, which isn't even true because there was only some rice and dressing. We started arguing and I told her I couldn't take this anymore. I told her to pack her crap and leave first thing in the morning. She began crying and my husband got involved and defended her up and down, repeatedly saying that she's pregnant and she's eating for two basically. He suggested I go make myself something quick from the fridge and just let it go, but I refused and a bigger argument ensued. Am I the jerk for kicking her out over this? Not the jerk. And you don't have a sister-in-law problem, you have a husband problem. Don't get me wrong, your sister-in-law sounds like a spoiled, selfish, and entitled piece of work, pregnant or not. But your problem is that your husband is more concerned with her health and happiness than yours. He needs to get his priorities in the right place. Not the jerk. And honestly, I think your husband should go with her. She's not an infant herself. She can make her own food if she doesn't want what everyone else is having. And if she wants more when she's done with that, she can find a way to get it that doesn't involve depriving you of even one meal. You're the jerk. She's pregnant. Can't you show the slightest bit of compassion? Having been pregnant many times myself, I can tell you the cravings are insane. At the end of the day, we're talking about food here. It seems like you don't even care that she's pregnant, and like your husband said, she is eating for two people right now. You honestly sound jealous of your husband's great relationship with his sister. One reason my brother cut me off was because of his new wife. She thought our relationship was weird for all kinds of reasons. Newsflash, us sharing a bed when he stayed over was not uncommon at all. She said he could have stayed on the sofa instead. But if you love someone, you should have no problem cuddling with them to stay warm. Stop being a Karen. I'd give anything to just hold my brother one more time, to look in his eyes and tell him how much I love him. But thanks to his insane wife, that will never happen. Yowza! Sounds like you've got more issues than People magazine. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or sister-in-law? Please let us know. If sister-in-law ate my food, I'd put something special in it that would get rid of her for good. My Karen girlfriend lies to everyone about the plastic surgery she had. My girlfriend and I moved to Europe a few years ago, and she ended up getting a lot of plastic surgery while we were out there that I begged her not to get. She got a nose job, fillers, chin surgery, and I don't even know what all else. I hate to say it, but it decreased her attractiveness. Don't get me wrong, she's still beautiful, but not nearly as gorgeous as what she used to look like. It also just makes me sad that she removed all the features that I loved on her face. It's also sad that people think these are features they need to remove. She looks hollowed out and tired now. But she doesn't want to admit that she got plastic surgery. We're back home from Europe and people started commenting on her looks at dinner. One of her friends just straight out asked if she got something done and she said no. She said it was just aging. Of course she was going to look different. She's 27, etc. I was shocked. I couldn't even believe she could play that card when the results are so dramatic. It's so obvious that she was lying, but no one called her out on it. My sister has been staying at my parents' house because I'm here, and she has been weirdly obsessed with her look since that dinner. She's only 24, and she's truly a baby. 24 seems so young now, or at least she makes it seem young. She admitted to me that seeing my girlfriend brought up feelings of anxiety towards aging. She said she didn't know how people could change so much, and it was stressing her out. She started calling me and freaking out about a line she found on her forehead, which was hardly noticeable at all. She isn't a person that's super fixated on her looks, normally at least, so it surprised me. But she was buying a lot of anti-aging skincare and applying it multiple times a day. I told her she was fine. All she had to do was moisturize and wear sunscreen. I mean, I looked the same as I did at 24, but she wasn't buying it, and it was obvious why. It hurt me so much to hear her like that. She kept putting retinol on her face and would ask me daily if I see lines going away when there were no lines in the first place. After a while of her spiraling, one day I finally broke down and said, Dude, you're freaking out about aging because of my girlfriend. Chill out. She got plastic surgery. You don't just randomly start to have totally different features after you hit 25. You're gonna look exactly how you look now at 27. Relax. She's way too young to be hyperfixating on her looks and worrying about aging. She has an obsessive personality sometimes and gets fixated on things, probably the anxiety disorder. So just telling her that made her drop the subject. Thank God. I told her weeks ago, but last week my girlfriend asked if I told anyone about her plastic surgery. I admitted I did tell my sister because I didn't want to lie about it, and she's very mad at me. Was I wrong to tell her? My girlfriend didn't outright say not to tell people, but it was obvious that she wanted me to lie for her and expected me to do it. Edit. Thank you for your responses. At the end of the day, my sister's well-being and mental health matters to me more than anything or anyone. She's naive, maybe more than you would expect from a 24-year-old, and I feel that I need to protect her. When I told her my girlfriend lied and had plastic surgery, she said, "But I didn't think she would lie to me about that." She looks up to my girlfriend and me a lot. My sister and my girlfriend are both in therapy, and have been for years actually, but that doesn't really stop insecurities. Edit. As for an update on our relationship, I do need to talk to her about the future. I've realized I've lost a lot of respect for her, not because of the plastic surgery and changing her appearance, I had accepted that, but she was fine with lying to my sister and watching her spiral into obsession. I kept bringing it up with her that my sister was struggling, and she would deflect and say a lot of young women care about their looks and she'll get over it. It really rubbed me the wrong way. My sister is my best friend and my only real family. I'd like to think a partner would see how important she is to me and prioritize her mental well-being. But yes, we will talk about it. Thank you for your responses. Not the jerk. When people deny having work done, especially when it's noticeable, people don't tend to believe them anyway. I don't think your girlfriend is fooling anyone. Your sister's well-being and state of mind are more important. Not the jerk. It's not like you rented a billboard and told the world. You told your sister to help her find peace with her self-image. Most people probably know your girlfriend had surgery, but they don't want to embarrass her. Not the jerk. However, I think at this point, you ought to reevaluate how you feel about your partner and whether or not you want to continue this relationship. What if she gets more work done? Would you be comfortable with that? Not the jerk. There's nothing wrong with getting plastic surgery, but lying about it when asked directly is disgusting behavior. Your girlfriend is the jerk. Disgusting behavior? I don't know. I think if someone gets a procedure done and they don't want to tell anybody about it, they don't have to. Oh, you know how these Reddit people are, Karen. If the story had been written from the girlfriend's point of view, of course they'd all be siding with her. That's right. He had no right to tell his sister about your procedure. He's showing you his true colors and that his sister matters to him more than respecting you and your privacy. They've kind of got a herd mentality, like a few people kind of side with OP and everyone else jumps on board, or vice versa. I guess after recording these stories every day for over 5 years, we can read these people like the back of our hand. You're going to lie to the police? Sure, I'll go along with it. So I got into an accident a few days ago. It was minor, but mostly my fault. I was doing a K-turn out of a residential driveway onto a busy street, and while backing up, I hit a car that was speeding to get past. No airbags were deployed, and both cars were completely drivable. This accident happened at about 4:45. In the car was a middle-aged father and mother with a toddler in a car seat in the back next to the door that was hit. This family does not speak English. The father got out of the car and did the immediate, "Look at my damage," that came with the accident. He tells me there's a baby in the back and shows me the still sleeping kid. His wife immediately gets on the phone with who I believe is the police. We pull into a parking lot to get off the busy road and wait. About 20 minutes later, I grabbed their hubcap out of the road and handed it to the gentleman, and he opened the back door again and showed me the sleeping baby. It's now about 5:40, and the couple's niece and her boyfriend show up. They immediately demand money to fix the car, and I told them we'll go through insurance. She asked several times if I really want to go that route, and I told her there was no way I had the money to fix both cars, so insurance it is. She proceeds to call the police at that point. The aunt was on the phone with her and not the police. Ugh, fine. I'll wait even longer for the police to come. Around 6:15, the toddler finally wakes up and starts crying. It's now been asleep for at least an hour and a half and most likely is hungry. At 6:30, the cops show up and ask the niece if the baby needs paramedics, and the niece, who didn't show up until almost an hour after the initial collision, starts to lie to the police about how the baby has been crying since the accident and to send them. I've been in a few accidents over my years as a driver, and now I'm starting to smell what this really is. Insurance scam. I looked through my dash cam and was able to prove they sped through a red light right before the driveway where I turned from. When the cop came to ask me what happened, I told him my side of the events and showed him the dash cam, proving the light was red in the direction they claimed to be coming from. For good measure, I told the police that the baby only started crying about 15 minutes prior to when they got there. The niece started screaming that I was lying. I then told the police officer, if what she says is true, then I'd like to make a claim against them for endangerment. They claimed the baby was crying for the last 2 hours from the accident, and never once did they call 911 for medical assistance. They called their niece to come here instead of emergency services and only asked for them after they were offered. The car seat also isn't center mounted like required by state law and should be cited. At that point, the niece is calling me every name in the book, like she just found I cheated on her from Jerry Springer. I then calmly tell the officer that my dash cam was running the entire time we were stopped, and I had it recorded from when the kid woke up. The officer looked at her and said, "Ma'am, it's a crime to lie on a police report. Was the baby crying since the accident?" All of a sudden, she now had to check with her aunt and uncle to find out. She withdrew her claim, and the officer tossed out her witness statement because she wasn't an actual witness to anything. Hopefully, no BS lawsuit comes from this. Am I the jerk for telling our mutual friends the real reason behind a cat adoption? I, 28 female, recently agreed to foster a cat who I was told had massive behavior issues and was going to be taken to an animal shelter if I didn't agree. I expected spitting, hissing, biting, not litter box trained, etc. Cat arrived with nothing to her name. Cat is 5 years old. No box, bowls, toys, food, nothing but a flea collar that was clearly months old and too tight. Cat was absolutely filthy. Ex-owner told me they couldn't provide money at the time for me to set the cat up, and I allowed it as I had been told they were in a nasty financial position. We agreed to keep a tab of vet bills and food bills to be paid. As they're leaving, she mentions the case of white claws she stopped to pick up on the way. I was gobsmacked. I set about getting what the cat needed and began to try to gauge its behavior. Turns out this animal is the sweetest, smartest, kindest being I've ever had the pleasure to know. Took Cat to the vet, and Cat is incredibly ill and underweight. Got her medical shampoo for her skin, antibiotics for the massive infection she has, and then called her ex-owner and told her to send me her microchip details as I would be keeping the cat. She says that's fine. Cat was never chipped anyway. Doesn't pay anything but $40 of the bills. 2 days later, turns up at her job with hair and nails done. I sat on it for 6 weeks and stewed until I found out she had been speaking to someone about a kitten. I didn't embellish anything. I simply told 2 of my closest friends what happened and why the cat stayed with me. The truth spread like wildfire, and most people have now turned their back on her. My only intent was to stop her from getting another animal, not for it to end up like this. I feel like I could be the jerk because this has affected her work and friendships. So, am I the jerk? Edit. I want to assure all of you that she will be okay. We're in for several surgeries, corrective and necessary, for a long recovery. But I've got her every step of the way. She will have the best of everything forever. Update. Unfortunately for me, the fallout of telling people the actual reason eventually led to myself and my ex splitting. Fortunately, I think it was by far the best outcome. I ended up naming her Frisia, and she is still the light of my life. For the last year and a half, we've battled hard to get her healthy. She's had her shoulder and jaw realigned, 6 teeth removed due to extreme dental issues, and we finally managed to get her ear infections under control after 9 rounds of medication and surgical cleaning. I spent around $5,000 getting these issues fixed, and I would do it all over again in a heartbeat. She has also gone from being extremely underweight, 2.6 pounds, to a healthy 7.7 pounds. She's my baby, my world, and it's hard to imagine what my life would be like without her. Previously, she would only eat the worst food you could buy. We've managed to get her to eat premium grade wet and dry food, as well as transition onto eating some real food, fish and chicken. She plays now, loves anything that has feathers, and is always extremely grateful for any new thing that she's given, be it a small toy or a new cat stand. She has 2 sisters now, and 2 dog brothers who she loves to terrorize. She has become the sky is awake, so I'm awake, so get up, kid. No sleep-ins allowed. She's my teddy bear and sleeps in a king-size bed every night. Am I the jerk for telling my ex-wife that she was the one who ruined our daughter's birthday? I have 2 kids from my ex-wife, a son who's 16 and daughter who's 20. They're entirely different when it comes to academics. Our daughter did well in school, straight A student, she did sports and wants to be a lawyer. Our son struggles more when it comes to school, doesn't do sports, doesn't know what he wants to do once he graduates. The two of them aren't close at all. It was my daughter's birthday yesterday, and we had a fairly large party for her. My side of the family, my ex's side of the family, and my daughter's friends. When it was time to cut the cake, my ex made a speech, talking about our daughter's accomplishments and how she'll be successful in the future. At the end of the speech, she said something along the lines of, "Hopefully my son gets his act together and gets better grades," which made our son visibly upset. Ex noticed that our son was upset, and she continued to push the issue, saying that she was worried and that he wouldn't have a future if he kept this up. By then, the party was already tense. Some of the family chimed in and took my ex's side. My son was arguing back and insulted his sister in the process. The party was ruined at this point, which upset our daughter. After the mess ended, my ex-wife came to me saying that we needed to get our son's jealousy issues under control because he shouldn't have ruined his sister's birthday like this. I reminded her that the party wouldn't have been ruined if she didn't bring up our son during her speech about our daughter. She claims I'm making things worse. Most of my side and her side of the family side with my ex, saying my ex didn't ruin it by being a concerned mother. I don't see what they're concerned about. Our son is on track to graduate. His grades are just average. But I have all these texts saying my son needs to apologize or that he needs therapy for the insults he said to his sister. Am I the jerk? Edit. After he insulted his sister, my ex asked if he cared about his sister at all, and he responded saying he didn't and that he didn't care what happens to her. That's why they think he needs therapy. Edit. I don't know how my daughter feels about the whole situation. She didn't say anything as she left the party, and she's not answering my texts or calls right now. You're not the jerk, but your ex-wife definitely is. There was absolutely no need for her to publicly take a shot at him like this. Of course he would get upset when she calls him out in front of all the extended family. You should talk to your son and let him know that you're there for him and support him. Not the jerk. I bet she'll be shocked when your son goes no contact with her. Honestly, she's awful. If I were your son, I would no longer interact with her. Am I the jerk for telling my ex-wife we aren't a team and I'm the only one who can make parenting decisions? I've been extremely conflicted after this last argument with my ex. I don't want to diminish her accomplishments, and I hope it doesn't come across that way in the post. That being said, when I was young, I married who I thought was my soulmate, and we had 2 kids together, a daughter and a son. Unfortunately, I did not know my wife was an addict when we married. She hid it extremely well until a few years in. I began noticing patterns and eventually confronted her. We split when the oldest was 3. She signed over custody. I know she ended up becoming homeless a while after our split because her parents didn't want anything to do with her. Did not know anything besides that. She contacted me about a year back and told me she was 3 years sober, had a stable job and a home. I checked with her family and everything, and yeah, she was telling the truth. She really wanted to meet her kids, and while I was a little upset at the "her kids" line, I eventually decided it wasn't my decision to make and left it up to the kids, who are now 16 and 17. They decided they wanted to meet her, and that was that. They've been hanging out with her about twice a week, and I let her come over for dinner almost every night. No sleepovers at her place as of now. So far, they've kind of had the aunt relationship with her, but they do seem to be enjoying it. Which brings me to our conflict. I'm far from being a great dad, but I honestly believe that I'm a good dad. I've built trust with my kids through therapy and heart-to-hearts over the years. They're fairly popular at their school, and they recently got invited to a party that I gave them the go-ahead to go to. I've spoken to them about the dangers of alcohol and drugs, etc., and they know that I'm always available to pick them up in a situation they don't want to be in. They also know why me and their mother split up. My kids came home around 11 and just gave me the teen-type rundown. Who was there, they couldn't believe who did what, blah blah blah. They also were honest with me and told me that they tried Jell-O shots, which they thought were gross. That was the end of that. They weren't drunk, they weren't buzzed, they tried a drink and that was that. They were there for about 2 hours and came home. Well, I guess they brought up the party in front of their mother that following breakfast meetup. She was livid. She tried to ground them from electronics and socializing for 2 weeks. They said it was really awkward and asked me to pick them up without much of the details. While they were waiting in the car, I spoke to her, and when she told me, I honestly laughed. I asked her what gave her the right. She responded that she really wants to be a mother to her kids and I should give her the chance to parent, that she's giving 100% to make this work. I told her it's way too late for that, The kids are basically adults. They have part-time jobs. They pay for their phone bills and clothes, by choice, and are deep into their plans for adulthood. She then told me I was robbing her chance to make things right and asked what was the point of letting her into their lives if I wasn't letting her be a mom. That we needed to be a team because she needs my support. And here's where I might be the jerk. I told her the kids are well past the age of asking me why mommy doesn't love them when crawling into my bed at night, and that she was welcome to leave again. And as far as being a team, the only team is me and my kids. I'm their parent. They listen to me and respect me because I've listened to and respected them their whole lives. We have not spoken since then, now going on a week and a half. She has still texted the kids good morning and good night messages, but has skipped 2 meetups they usually have so far. So, am I the jerk? Not the jerk. She needs to know her place. It's great she got clean, but she missed out on basically their entire childhood. She now needs to accept she won't have that mother-kid relationship with them like she wants to. You're just being honest. If you haven't put in the work and been there, almost adult teens don't need you getting involved. And it doesn't matter how much you want to participate if it's your own choices in life that made you lose that relationship. Not the jerk. Am I the jerk for not saving my girlfriend's driver's license and refusing to drive her to and from work? I'm 28, male. My girlfriend is 26, and she's always late. Always. No matter if it's 5 minutes up the road or catching a plane. Before we get into it, no, she isn't on the spectrum. She doesn't have ADHD or time blindness. She just dawdles all the time. She snoozes her alarm at least 3 times every morning, then lays there going through her social media. Eventually, she gets up and takes a long shower, dresses, which takes her forever, and she usually sits wrapped in a towel on her phone, then lingers over her coffee. 9 times out of 10, she's running late for work and ends up speeding to make it on time. Naturally, she's gotten a number of speeding tickets. I've tried to help her. Example, putting her phone where she can't reach it from bed, so she has to get up to snooze it, but she literally just grabs it and goes back to bed. You try to get her to get up, and she just digs her heels in and takes even longer. Her response to people calling out her lateness is, "Better late than right on time." So she was running even later than normal for work and really had to speed to make it. A week goes by, and sure enough, massive speeding fine in the mail. She now has to hand in her driver's license because she's got so many demerit points. She'll be without one for 6 months. Instead of just dealing with it, she tells me, "I'll need you to cop this one and say you were driving so I don't lose my license." And of course, I refused, telling her that she needs to live with the consequences of her actions and maybe she should stop speeding and wake up earlier. This argument went on for a few days until she finally conceded, then proceeds to tell me, "Well, you'll have to drive me to and from work until I get my license back." And I tell her I won't be doing that. Her work is literally in another direction than my work is from home, and doing so would add another 2 hours of driving per day. She says it shouldn't matter as my work has flexible hours, but I stood my ground and refused, and said she can take public transport. There's literally a bus stop 2-minute walk from our house, and the bus stops maybe 5 minutes from her work, and it's quite regular. She says she hates public transport and refuses to ride it, so I said then it's Uber for her, or organize a carpool, but bottom line, it's not my responsibility. She called me a jerk and is giving me the silent treatment, said a decent boyfriend would go to those lengths for her and that it's only 6 months. So, am I the jerk for saving her license and refusing to drive her to and from work for 6 months? Edit. We live in Brisbane, Australia, for those wondering. Update. She told me all her friends think I'm the jerk, which is a big part of why I came here in the first place. After seeing the response here, I messaged a few of them, and the ones she actually did contact said not the jerk. As for why I'm still with her, I'm starting to question that myself. I've not been really happy with her the last few months, and this is starting to make me question the entire relationship. Update 2. So today I asked her if she looked at the train and bus timetables, and she hit me with, "OMG, you seriously aren't going to help me? You really expect me to catch public transport?" Reflecting on this and past behavior, and her attitude towards the whole thing, I'm going to break up with her. Living with each other is a job interview for marriage. Imagine being married to someone so self-centered. OP is dodging a bullet. Am I the jerk for telling my daughter not to spend money on her classroom because it makes the rest of us look bad? I'm a first-grade teacher, and my daughter is a preschool teacher. She's a second-year teacher. She was teaching assistant for a while until she got the credits required to teach. Her school opened a second location with 1 classroom, and she currently runs the location 12 to 6:30 every day. When she started working at the school, I noticed she was running to the Dollar Tree or Walmart to grab little things for her classroom, like hair ties, stickers, beads, or string. She said she didn't mind because it was all cheap and made her job easier. Then when she got her own classroom, she really started buying stuff for her classroom often. She got 24 outfits to store in her class, 3 in each size from 2 to 5 for the kids, in case the parents forgot to send new clothes. She bought a box of pull-ups in case they need those. She bought extra snacks, extra jackets and socks, a pair of combs and brushes, extra nap bedding, and bins of what she calls stalling activities, easy things she can pull out when she needs to stall. She even has Halloween costumes in case one of her students doesn't have one, and she gives away the blankets and jackets if she thinks a student needs them. I told her that all of this is excessive, and she should leave it up to the owner of the school to get these things. She said the owner says these things aren't necessary, but they don't cost much, and they make her classroom run smoother. I told her that if the owner says it's unnecessary, don't get these things, and let her see how the class runs without them. I told her I don't spend any money on my classroom, and that if my principal isn't willing to buy it, the kids don't need it. She says it's different because I work at a $30,000 per year private school, and she teaches in a more lower income community, but I still told her it's not her responsibility. I also told her that her buying stuff for her classroom makes all of us that don't look bad, but she doesn't care. She's upset with me for being pushy, but I'm just doing what's best for her. Am I the jerk? You're the jerk. Let her do nice things for those kids who don't have the luxury of attending a private school. I think you're being a bit paranoid that stocking her low-income classroom with goodies could make your private classroom look bad. Look bad to who exactly? Are your private school kids taking field trips to your daughter's school? The answer is to herself. The only judgment she's feeling right now is on her own self-judgment. She's realized that she's a worse, less caring person than her daughter, and it's easier for her to try to hide the evidence by convincing her daughter to be less charitable than her so she can make her be the kind of person she wishes she was. You're the jerk. You're really not doing what's best for her. You're doing what's best for you. She told you it helps her classroom run smoother. She doesn't mind, and it works for her. Why do you feel the need to control your daughter, her career, and how she chooses to run it? Why would you choose to be unsupportive? You obviously raised a selfless, kind, generous, and upstanding woman, and you're literally trying to force your ways onto her to be the opposite. Why? Because you wouldn't do it? Says more about you than her. You're the jerk. Not the jerk. Your daughter is wasting her hard-earned money on things she's not responsible for. You are speaking to her from a point of logic and reason. Of course, Reddit is going to tell you that you're wrong. They are all obsessed with playing victim, and they hate any ideas that relate to logic and reason. They would much rather a preschool teacher waste her money on things that will not benefit her than to say, invest in building a stock market portfolio, or make extra payments towards her student loans, which Reddit thinks nobody should have to pay, or to get her car note paid off sooner, or save up for a down payment for a house. There are 2 ways to live one's life, the smart way or the Reddit way. Live your life the Reddit way, and you will be no better off than these self-proclaimed victims who have nothing to show for themselves and who spend all day complaining about how much they hate landlords. Am I the jerk for returning my daughter's birthday cake after I discovered that my wife had made changes to it? I, 37 male, have a daughter who's now 13, Olivia, from my former relationship. Currently, I'm married to my wife who has a daughter, Brittany, who's 16. So, Brittany is the opposite of Olivia. For example, Brittany is a social kid. Olivia is introverted. The list is long, but they're just the complete opposite. Olivia's 13th birthday was 2 days ago. She loves chocolate, and I decided this is the flavor I was going to go with when I contacted the bakery. However, my wife objected since Brittany absolutely hates chocolate and suggested we go with vanilla. I said no way, because for one, Olivia hates vanilla, and it's also her birthday, so she gets to have her cake with her favorite flavor. My wife got upset and took it as in I had no regard for Brittany and that we should just choose another neutral flavor instead. I shut that down and said no more discussing this because I'd already decided to go with what Olivia wanted. At the day of the birthday, I was supposed to get the cake, but I was surprised to see my wife coming home after picking up the cake from the bakery. I looked at it and discovered that it wasn't a chocolate cake, but a vanilla cake with a small piece of chocolate on top. I got upset, thinking they got my order wrong, and I was about to contact them. But my wife said that there was no mistake and that she called the bakery the day before and made slight changes to the cake to please both of them. I was stunned. I lost it on her and asked her why she did that. She got defensive, saying that birthdays are no excuse to show favoritism and that her daughter is watching and observing how I'm treating both of them. I told her off since I was the one paying, then called the bakery and explained what had happened. I had the cake returned and replaced with a chocolate cake, although this one is smaller, but it was fine. My wife declined to take part in the celebration, and later we got into a huge argument where she called me controlling and selfish for returning the cake instead of using this opportunity to teach Olivia to compromise so that everyone's happy. Now I'm teaching her to be selfish. I said that my daughter gets to act selfish on her birthday, and that she, my wife, was teaching her daughter to be entitled. Word for word, and it led to a bigger argument. We're not talking as of now. Am I the jerk for returning the cake and not taking my wife's input into consideration? Not the jerk. It's Olivia's birthday, not Brittany's birthday. The cake should be the flavor of what the birthday kid wants. This is a special day for Olivia. Therefore, there doesn't really need to be fairness between your daughters. I don't like chocolate, but when it's my sister's birthday, we get chocolate because it's what she likes. I get over it because it's her special day. Your wife is a jerk for going behind your back. The cake was basically vanilla to make Brittany happy, with tiny bits of chocolate for the birthday girl. Why can't Brittany learn to compromise? She's older, and she should know that she can't get what she wants on a day that's not her birthday. Not the jerk. But OP, do you see the red flags? A birthday cake is for the person whose birthday it is. It's not selfish or demeaning to get the person's favorite flavor. Your stepdaughter could have had a vanilla cupcake. But no, your wife made the point to go behind your back and to change it for her daughter. Your wife talks about how her daughter is observing how you treat her. So your daughter doesn't matter? Your daughter could see a stepmom who doesn't give a hoot about her. Hypocrisy much? You did well in changing the cake, but you have way bigger problems in your home. The fact that she did this so flagrantly tells me that she's been messing with you for a while. You probably just now caught on to it. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his wife? Please let us know. I don't know how anyone could not like chocolate cake. Then again, I don't know how anyone couldn't like vanilla either. They're both just so good. Won a lawsuit against a guy who tried to force me out of business because I broke his local monopoly. I'm 26 years old, and I decided to open my own business this year. Moving forward in this post, I should point out that I am from a small town of about 1,000 people in the rural Midwest. Because of this, everyone has some sort of connection with someone. We went to one of the liquor stores in the closest city about 30 minutes away, in a small city of 8,000 people. When we were grabbing some drinks for a party, I was looking at the prices and saw how insane the prices were. For a 6-pack of local beer, we were charged $15. I was thinking about this and figured that I could probably make bank opening a liquor store. Back in February, I was furious about my crappy job and thinking out loud how cool it would be to own my own business to a friend. My friend's mom happened to be the president of the local bank. He told me, "Hey, with the lockdown, the bank has been struggling to find customers to give out loans. Right now, the bank is giving loans for cheap." A couple of weeks later, I went in and met with my friend's mom, and I pitched my idea with the research I had done on alcohol prices, potential demand, and estimated income. I got the loan at a fantastic interest rate. I bought a building, which happened to be the former bank, and hired my dad to help me renovate the building. My dad is a general contractor, and he gave me an excellent quote on materials and labor. After working everything out with the distributors, getting the proper licenses, and getting my paperwork I needed for the government, I was ready to open my liquor store in May. I had started taking out ads in the local newspaper advertising my store and my prices. When I was in talk with my distributors, I learned, even with inflation and everything else, the liquor stores in this city had like an 80% markup. I talked to a local business owner, and he suggested that I have around a 35 to 40% markup. Because of this, I was significantly cheaper than the closest liquor store, and I had a much wider selection than the gas stations and small local stores nearby. My hometown is near a national forest. As such, we have a ton of people who come up for weekends for recreational activities year-round. My first week, the week before Memorial Weekend, after opening, I made a $4,000 profit. It was great being my own boss. If someone was rude to me or my girlfriend, "Oh, I'm sorry, you can do your business elsewhere." Did the gang and I run out of drinks? Time to grab my keys, not car keys, the store keys. My apartment is like 2 blocks away, and go to the store. That's not to say that it wasn't difficult running my own business, especially that my only employee was my girlfriend, and we were both working 6 or 7 10 to 12-hour days a week. I was both manager, accountant, and cashier, but it's so much nicer knowing I can tell someone to buzz off for being a jerk. Couple of weeks after Memorial Day, some old guy walks into my store a couple of minutes after I opened. He seemed friendly enough, but eventually he offered to buy my store. I'm not going to say the amount, but it wouldn't have even covered my principal on the loan. I rejected the proposal outright and refused to negotiate the sum higher. He walked out of my store saying, "Well, you'll be sorry you rejected that offer." The next month, a guy walked into my store and asked if I was the owner. After saying yes, I was informed that my business was being sued by this random guy I had never heard of for libel. After he left, I was freaking out, and I decided that I was going to close early. When I got home, I Googled the guy and soon saw a picture of the guy that tried to buy my store. It turns out that this is the guy who owns both of the liquor stores in the nearby city. It also just so happens that he's on the city council. With a little bit of further digging, I learned that this city has an ordinance that reads, "Any business institution that does not fulfill the definition of a restaurant, tavern, or liquor dispensary will be excluded from obtaining a license for the sale of alcohol." Later, I discovered that the same guy happens to be the head of the board which approves liquor licenses. I love small-town corruption. Either way, I had a major issue. My maternal uncle happens to be a lawyer in a neighboring state. I decided to call him and try to get some legal advice. I talked to him and read the documents that I had been handed and served over the phone, and the research I had done. After receiving all the information I had read off, I was expecting to get some sort of advice, but instead heard, "Hang on, I gotta make a call," and he hung up. I'm freaking out. I was actually about to post my first post to r/legal advice. I'll be honest, I just wanted someone to tell me it was going to be okay, and I didn't need to crawl to this guy on my hands and knees. As I was writing the title, my uncle called back. "Hey OP, I just got off the phone with my partner. He agreed that we can take your case pro bono. If you would like to accept, we can discuss at my office tomorrow at 1 o'clock. This is how I learned that my uncle is on the bar in 3 states. So we meet and we discuss the case. It turns out the guy had filed the libel suit against my business based on the ads I took out in the local newspapers. He claimed that my ads were targeted to damage his and his business reputation. There were a few other things that I had no idea what was being referenced, but Uncle assured me that we would win this case no problem. 3 weeks later, the case is dismissed, but after my uncle says, "People like that guy will likely try to file another suit against you. If that happens, call me, and I promise I'll help." The next day, I get served again, but this time, I'm the defendant. Not my store, me. I swear, I look at the documentation and the only thing that changed was instead of my business name, mine is listed as the defendant. Same thing happens. 4 weeks later, the case is dismissed. Over the next 3 months, I was sued just as many times. Before the 5th case's hearing, we had a settlement meeting. My uncle, the judge, the guy suing me, his lawyer, a bailiff, and I were sitting in this room. Judge says, "You two have been in court 4 times already. Is there any way we can come to an agreement that'll stop this cycle of faulty litigation?" The guy's lawyer says they have an offer and hand it to my uncle, who then hands it to me. It essentially read that he'll stop all litigation if I sell my business for about 30% of the remaining loan principal. I outright rejected the offer and I made a counteroffer. I said, "If you drop this case, I won't sue you for harassment." He busts out laughing. "Sue me? With what money? The legal fees alone ought to have drained you. You should be happy I chose to extend this offer and not sue you into bankruptcy and buy that place from the bank when they foreclose on you." The judge, the bailiff, and the guy's own lawyer were all looking at him aghast for saying the silent part out loud about the real reason I was getting sued. My uncle straight out said to him, "Oh, I'm sorry. Apparently you were never told. I have taken all of my nephew's cases pro bono. The only money he has spent on your litigations is gas. And bluntly, sir, I think your outburst has just ensured a suit against you." After that, we just left, and I was then informed a few days later the litigation was dropped. Right then, my uncle and I are talking about the future suit against the guy. I want to sue the guy for a very high amount to try and get press attention on this guy and his sketchy actions. Although my uncle warned me that we'll need to be careful because if we set the damages too high, it'll look like we're just being vindictive. This suit won't be pro bono, but after getting sued 5 times for free essentially, I'm not going to complain. Looking back on this, I'm so thankful that my friends and family supported the entire way, especially my uncle. Without my uncle, I would have absolutely lost my business. My broke sister is having her 8th baby and she's upset that I'm not happy for her. I'm 16, female, and I'm the younger sister to Lori, who's 26. Me and Lori have never been close since we had different dads. I was an affair baby. She's always resented me for ruining her family, but whatever. Lori has 7 kids. Yes, 7. All who are under the age of 7. Despite the fact that Lori is incapable of taking care of these kids, 4 of them were actually planned. Because she knows my pushover mom will give her money and watch the kids. My mom even quit her job to do so, even turning her workroom into a nursery for Carl. We're pretty well off, but we can't do this forever. I try not to judge and just ignore Lori like she does me. Even though when my mom is busy doing something like changing a diaper, I have to step in and help, especially with the twins since they're very rough with each other. Tonight at dinner, Lori's boyfriend joined, a father to just Carl, as well as Lori's father. This wasn't abnormal, so I didn't think anything of it until my sister said she had some exciting news. I wished she'd say something else, but I knew what she was going to say. "I'm pregnant," she would say. Everyone went dead silent until I said, "Bruh." I didn't mean to say it out loud, but come on. Lori gave me a death stare and said if I wanted to say something, I should just say it. So I did. "Lori, this is your," I take a moment to count them, "8th kid. You know we can't keep supporting you. Without mom, you'd be on the streets, and you know that. Look at mom. She's so tired. She's always taking care of your kids, and so am I. I'd bet I'd changed more diapers than you have, you selfish jerk." She began to cry and ran out into her boyfriend's car. He followed her and drove. My mother then began to cry too. She left to go get Carl back to bed since he woke up. It was just me and Lori's father. He began to yell and told me I was a brat and Lori was a great mother. Then he stormed off. As I'm sitting here in the morning watching the boys, I'm thinking, was I too obnoxious? My mom says that a lot. I don't mean to be because of my autism, but come on. Please give me some feedback, Reddit. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. If it were me, I would completely stop helping to watch the kids. I can't stand when people pawn their kids off on family members. It really ticks me off since it happened to me as a kid. My parents decided to have more kids when I was 10, 14, and then again when I was 17. Guess when I moved out? At 17. Not the jerk. Sorry, I'm a mother to a 17 and a 15-year-old, and bruh is a common saying in my household. Good on you for calling her out and sticking up for your mother. It's not fair to these kids or your mother. You're the jerk. There is no we. We can't keep supporting you. We can't do this forever. Your parents' relationship and support of their daughter and grandkids has nothing to do with you and is not your business to judge. Sorry, Reddit bozo, but if someone's taking advantage of a family member of mine, you bet your butt I'm gonna judge it and say something about it. So who do you think is the jerk? OP or her sister? Please let us know. 8 kids and she's making the grandma raise them. But Karen, if everyone had a brain, we wouldn't have half of these stories we read. Okay, fair enough. Karen demands I pay her medical bills. My parents had me at 16. They were both in high school. After I was born, my father dropped out to work full-time and take care of me, so my biological mother could stay in school. Eventually, after finishing high school, she realized that motherhood wasn't for her and left my dad and me. I was 2, so I don't really remember her being around. After that, my father worked 3 times as hard to provide for me. He also met a nice woman whom he later married when I was 7. I'll consider her my mom. I'll call her my stepmother to avoid confusion. My biological mom didn't contribute in any way, not even financially. In fact, the last time she contacted me before now was on my 3rd birthday, which was just a quick happy birthday card through the mail. I never had ill feelings towards her decision because I had my dad, mom, and brother who filled the emptiness she left. My parents have never said anything negative about her. Her leaving me was not something I thought about every day, so you can imagine my confusion when she reached out on social media to talk. I thought about it for days before I agreed. We met in a restaurant for the first time in 25 years. It was awkward small talk at the beginning before we delved into why she left. My biological mother teared up while explaining why. She suffered from postpartum depression and felt trapped by the constant cycle, so she felt compelled to leave. She explained why she reached out and made it clear that she didn't leave because of me. Of course, I sympathized with her, as I saw my stepmom go through postpartum depression with my brother and saw how much it affected her. We met a couple more times before I was invited to meet her new family. She had a husband and also 3 kids who are 13, 11, and 7. After weeks of this, I had my most recent meetup with my biological mother. She looked distressed while greeting me, so I asked if anything happened. She then explained to me in a quick response that her oldest daughter, who's 13, has health issues. I won't say what due to how sensitive it is. She explained that she needs $25,000 for medication and has accumulated medical bills of $20,000. She asked if I could pay it off. For context, after graduating and receiving my postgraduate diploma, I landed my dream job that earned a good sum of money. I'm certain she may have heard about where my job was from somewhere and saw it as an opportunity. She gave me time to think about it. It didn't take long for me to say no. I felt used and exploited. She never wanted to meet me. She just wanted money from the kid she left to help the other kid that she loves. After giving her my response, which wasn't much, just a simple, "No, I don't feel comfortable with that," through text, I was soon bombarded with text messages from her husband telling me what a nasty jerk I was, followed by more text from my biological mother about how I'm so cruel for not helping out my sister due to my grudge against her. And then to top it all off, I was getting some messages from family members from her side of the family questioning why I'm being so difficult. So, am I really terrible for not paying for my half-sister's medication and medical bills? Info. Not that it really matters, but did she ever pay child support to your father? Because if she didn't, she might owe you $20,000. OP. The only thing she paid for after leaving was a $3 birthday card. And I'm glad she showed me what she really wanted early on so I could cut her off quickly. Also, my mom adopted me when I was 6. Update. I've learned more about what was happening in my biological mom's family. First of all, I questioned why she had 3 more kids despite her postpartum depression. It turns out that she and her husband found out early on about the severity of their first daughter's illness. They had 2 additional kids as savior siblings for their oldest daughter's medical treatment. Neither of them were matches. I've currently blocked her and her husband. I didn't go into this expecting to reconnect with my biological mom. That wasn't the plan. I already have a mom and I didn't need another one. I just wanted to give her a chance to explain herself. I never wanted a mother-daughter bond, just to be cordial or friendly. My family supported me in meeting my biological parent, and I didn't blindside them. I'm happy with my own family, and I don't need her to complete it. It's not her leaving that bothers me, it's her current actions. But even through all of that, I'll sympathize with her only on the basis that she suffered with PPD. When my biological mom left, my grandparents and biological aunts stood by my dad. They raised me alongside my parents. They said she's always been mentally unstable and manipulative. I feel bad for my half-sister, but I can't give her the money. Sometimes I wish I had ignored my biological mom from the beginning. Also, I blocked the strangers calling my phone a while back, just forgot to add that in. You know, if that half-sister wasn't sick, OP would never have heard from her egg donor at all. Ever. Am I the jerk for telling my niece she'll have to move out if she's not my nanny anymore? I'm a single mom to 2 kids who are 8 and 6. I work as a nurse 3 days a week. I work 12-hour shifts, 12 p.m. to 12 a.m. After my husband passed, I needed a nanny to tend to my kids from the time they got off school, 3 p.m. onwards. I decided a live-in was the best choice. I have 1 guest bedroom. I live right near a university. Around this time, my niece had just gotten accepted. She wanted to save cost on dorms and offered to watch my kids those 3 days if she could live there rent-free. I agreed and said I'd also pay her $22 an hour, a competitive rate for our area. She's done with her classes by 1, so it works out. She fixes them dinner and puts them to bed. Then she's free to do whatever. But of course, I pay her from 3 p.m. to 12:30 a.m. It worked for 2 years. My niece never had any complaints. Now, however, my niece is getting a paid internship related to her major that starts in January. She wouldn't be available to watch the kids. I congratulated her and said I could help her look into student housing or an apartment. We'd have 3 months to do this. She was confused. I said since I would need a live-in and only have 1 guest room, she would have to move out. My niece got upset and said this isn't fair. She won't be able to save any money if she gets a dorm or an apartment. She could afford to live on her own, but wouldn't have much savings. I pointed out that this would work best for me, as I had to put my kids in aftercare the other 2 days that I work. I get off around 5, and the nanny could just pick them up from school versus them having to stay there so long. My niece argued that the nanny could leave at the end of her shift, but after speaking to some nannies, they understandably don't want to drive home so late. Plus, I'm fine with the nanny and my niece sleeping after the kids do. So there's no sense in them sleeping, then waking up and driving so drowsy. Even I feel nervous driving home so late, especially after my long shift. My sister-in-law, her mom, feels this is unfair to my niece, but she moved in under the condition that she'd work as a nanny. My sister-in-law and brother live 3 hours away, so niece couldn't commute if she moved back in with them. They feel I should try to find a nanny who'd be willing to drive home at 12:30 a.m. It would take me a half-hour minimum to get home, but all the nannies I've spoken to said no or expressed concern about their safety driving so late. Am I the jerk? Edit. The internship is all semester long. My niece isn't interested in nannying at all going forward and will instead be pursuing internships. She has no desire to work after her internship is over for the day. She knew from the jump that I was only looking for a live-in specifically for childcare. I have also provided her written notice, and I'm covering myself legally. Not the jerk. You need to get a lawyer to draft an official move-out document with a 30-day date. Her parents are going to tell her to just stay and call your bluff because family. Don't let her do you over like this. OP. We have a lease agreement which ends every 6 months for this reason. I knew there was a chance she may change her mind about living here, so legally I'm protected and can choose to simply not renew the lease. Not the jerk. She fully knows she moved into a room that was intended for a nanny, as she fulfilled that role for 2 years. It's unfair for her to now demand a change to the arrangement, especially since this would be at a heavy cost to you. They're also an adult who's been paid a nice hourly rate between 3 p.m. and 12 a.m. without any rent being charged. What were they doing with that money? After 2 years, they could have something set aside. Tuition isn't cheap, but wow, have they squandered a great opportunity if they can't be ready to move out in 3 months. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or niece? Please let us know. Niece was making about $200 every time she watched the kids, and she had free lodging. She should be kissing the ground OP walks on after all that's been done for her. Friend invites me to stay with her for a week, then gave me a list of the things that I needed to pay for. Okay, I get helping to pay for some things when you're staying with someone, but I was just blown away when she gave me this rundown list for things we did. She was my best friend. I had known her since I was 8 and we're now 50. Sure, we've grown apart since then, because now she lives in another country and I rarely see her. But she kept begging us to come and visit her and her husband. They had put us up for our entire stay and even offered to throw my husband a 50th birthday party because we'd be there during his birthday. Quite honestly, if I invited someone to stay with me, there's no way I would be asking for any money from them. I can't imagine doing that. I was going to give her some money for things like the room they paid for when we went to another city and stayed over, but there were other things that I was like, wow, really? But she didn't simply ask for some money. She actually gave me an itemized list of what I owed her, half of everything we did. My best friend, and she listed things down to the dime of what we owed her. Here's the list. $152 for the stay at the hotel room in the other city. Okay, this I get. $105 for gas, for them driving us around town and out of town during our stay to show us the sights. $90, birthday food for husband's birthday party. This I get as well. But if you offer to throw a party for someone, you don't usually expect them to pay for half of it. $136 for car rental. When we flew to another island with them for a couple of days, I get this as well. $21 for gas, I guess for around town driving. $6.50 for parking. $27 for airport parking, when we parked the car at the airport before taking a flight to the other island for 2 days. The total, $537.80. I was just blown away by this. I would have given them a couple hundred to cover the hotel room and birthday food, but actually asking us to pay for the gas to drive us around and parking is ridiculous, especially the measly $650. And the fact that it wasn't just $500, but $537.80. They asked us to come visit, and then unbeknownst to us the whole time they were tallying up all the things we did to split the cost of everything. They came and stayed with us a few years earlier, and I certainly didn't give them a tally of the groceries they owed or the gas spent driving them around. You ask someone to stay with you, then you pay for things. There are 2 ways I would handle this. Both ways are a relationship ender. 1, pay the money and let them know that no further contact will be had. I would be upfront that this was just a crappy thing to do after the fact. Or 2, let them know that if they expected money, that should have been said before you stayed so you could see if you wanted to stay with them or do the things they wanted to. They basically didn't give you the option to say if it was in your budget or not. With friends like this, who needs enemies? Am I the jerk for saying my in-laws treat me like a live-in maid and wanting to move out? I, 26 female, and my husband, who's 27, live with his parents. His father had some health issues and needed some care, and we agreed to move in to help out. Father-in-law is generally doing better now, but there's still a few things he can't do anymore that my husband does now instead. We've discussed moving out. I want to, but my in-laws are very resistant to the idea, stating that there's plenty of room here and they don't know what they'd do without us, etc. While we don't pay his parents to live here, their decision, we pay for groceries for everyone and several household bills, electricity, internet, TV packages, etc. The house is mortgage-free. I also do all of the household cleaning and cooking. I arrange and take all of their pets to the vet appointments too. I do work from home, so this is easier for me, and as I'm able to be flexible. We also pay half of any house modifications or upgrades, as it'll be our house one day. Recently, I've begun to feel resentful of the fact that once they're all done with work, they can come home and relax. Whereas when I finish work, I have to cook and clean and I have no help. On the weekends, I spend half of the day cleaning the house while they do what they want. This all came to a head last week. I was really unwell. I felt the worst I've ever felt and wanted nothing more than to sleep. However, once it got around to dinner time, I was woken up by my mother-in-law to ask when I was getting up to make dinner. I didn't want to cause an argument, so I just got up and made dinner for them. But as I was in the kitchen struggling not to pass out, the three of them sat watching a movie, waiting for me to bring in their food. I didn't say anything at first. I waited until my husband and I were alone to bring up my concerns with a lack of help. My husband apologized and offered to help more, which I accepted, but the next day was an exact repeat. I had to drag myself out of bed to cook, and once I'd brought in their food, my mother-in-law says, "Oh, you look truly awful. Poor you. Oh, by the way, later would you mind giving everywhere an extra clean? I don't want to get whatever you have." At which point, I accused them of treating me like a live-in maid and not caring about me outside of the services I provide for them. I pointed out that I wouldn't be in the communal areas if I hadn't been dragged out to cook, and that they could have handled one meal themselves. My husband sat there in silence. He thinks I should have brought it up more carefully at a time when I wasn't so emotional. I agree that I probably should have, but I was sick and stressed. I want to move out, but husband and in-laws are still against it. Nothing has changed with what they expect from me. I got no apology, just silent treatment from mother-in-law for a couple of days. So, am I the jerk? Edit. It didn't start off with me doing everything. Before we moved in with my in-laws, my husband and I split everything equally, and that worked great. Once we moved here, I picked up a bunch of the household chores because I work from home and I'm here. It just made sense. Slowly over time, there's just been things added here and there, and that has snowballed into the current situation. I have stood up for myself a few times, but it's an incredibly difficult situation. I'm very aware this is not my house. They're not my parents, and the things I would say to my own parents are not the same I feel I could say to his. I moved across the country before we got married. None of my friends are here. Most of my closest friends are my husband's friends, wives, etc. I don't have any family nearby. I've always felt if I push too hard, everyone will be against me, and I didn't realize before now how toxic of an environment it is. The inheritance of the house isn't something I want or need. This was never supposed to be a long-term thing, and I guess I've just felt pressured to contribute to certain things involving the house because we do live here, and my husband will get the house one day. He's an only child. Overall, it's just been very eye-opening to realize maybe I'm not being as silly as I'm often made to think. All the things spiral into one big mess, and my husband should be sticking up for me, not contributing to the problem. I've tried talking to him about things several times, and he'll be helpful for a couple of days before resorting back to Mummy's Little Prince. I know I've been needing to get out for a while. I think this is just the push I needed to make such a massive life decision. What exactly is it that your husband does that your father-in-law can't do? At this point, I'd say he's recovered enough that he should be able to do most things, but it's mostly walking his dogs, anything involving any sort of lifting. Nothing that couldn't be done by outside sources if we were to leave. Update. After making this post, I started putting my wages into my own bank account. I removed all of my savings from our joint savings account and transferred everything from my own safety account just in case. This turned out to be the best decision because I found out I was pregnant roughly 2 weeks after this post. I'd been told at 15 that due to some medical conditions, I'd never be able to get pregnant naturally, so it was a complete shock. Once I had a scan to check everything was okay, thankfully it was, we told my in-laws, and this is what gave me the final shove I needed. Immediately, names were being thrown around, and my mother-in-law started talking about reducing her hours to part-time and early retirement so she could be around to raise the baby. This rubbed me completely the wrong way. I don't want anyone else raising my baby. Colors for the nursery and themes, etc. were all being discussed constantly, but never with me or my opinions being taken into consideration, and within a week, I felt as though I was just an incubator. The final straw happened when myself, my husband's cousin, who's 29, female, and mother-in-law went shopping. I had been looking at the different kinds of pumps that I wanted before being told that I would be bottle feeding so everyone could help out. I didn't want to cause a scene in the middle of the shop, so I moved on to outfits, but everything I picked up or looked at was either the wrong color or style or something. I picked out one outfit, which would be my first baby purchase, and mother-in-law snatched it out of my hands before I could pay, telling me that it was the wrong sort of outfit. It wasn't gender neutral enough, and if the baby is a boy like we're hoping, then it's far too feminine. I didn't need to be told what I could and couldn't dress my own kid in, nor did I appreciate the suggestions that they would all prefer a boy, let alone being told how I would be feeding them. So I left. I tried talking to my husband on 3 separate occasions, and he either made excuses or blew me off entirely. I couldn't handle it anymore. I packed my bags and went to stay with my sister for a week. My husband called once and asked me to go home. Once. I made it clear I wouldn't be returning to live in that house, that I would raise the baby on my own if he didn't want to leave, but I would not allow my kid to be raised in such a toxic environment. As a big surprise to no one, he stayed put. After that, I got spammed with texts in the family group chat, but I left and deleted them all. I started the divorce process, and hopefully, as I've saved every disgusting message from either my ex or his family about both myself and my baby, they won't get any form of custody. Although, since I announced the gender, they've all gone quite silent. I now have a small 3-bedroom house. I'm only renting for now while I wait for the divorce to finalize, but it's plenty big enough for the 2 of us. My daughter will grow up surrounded by my family and plenty of cousins to play with. The house is pretty bare at the minute, as I only got the keys a couple of days ago, but I have time before she gets here to make sure everything is ready. Neighbors are excluding us from events after we cut down a dangerous tree. A little less than a year ago, the city finally removed a tree in front of our neighbor's house after years of us requesting they do so. Dangerous lean towards our home, lifting the sidewalk. It was a hazard. The issue is that our neighbors, who we previously had a great relationship with, now hate us. Hate us. They are also the most active house in the neighborhood. They host lots of barbecues, dinners, holiday events, etc., none of which we've been invited to since the tree came down. This sucks for us, but much more so for our 7-year-old daughter, who used to play with their daughter all the time, and still does at school, and who has been very sad to miss out. We ran into them on a walk recently, and our daughter asked if their backyard pumpkin carving was happening soon. Neighbor wife told her she wasn't sure, which is a lie. I saw them unload a ton of pumpkins from their car the other day, and one that our daughter will certainly find out about since we can see directly into their backyard from ours. My wife and I went over yesterday and tried to talk it out. We said that we're sorry the tree had to go, but it was for the safety of our family and property, and we'd like to find a way to be cordial again for the kids. We offered to pick out a new tree with them and plant it, which would be a safe way to fill the space, make a cool memory, and could be a nice restart as a tree planted during our kids' childhoods. They declined and basically told us that we're welcome to do whatever we want, but that they don't care to be a part of it, and that they're sad to have said goodbye to our daughter, but that they are not interested in a relationship with us, so we should not expect to be invited to anything they host. My wife cried all night and doesn't know how to explain to our daughter, and eventually to our son when he's old enough, that all the other kids in the neighborhood get to participate while they don't. I'm wondering if I should try one more conversation, and if so, how can I go about it? Or if we should just accept being excluded. Any advice is welcome. What's stopping you guys from being active in the neighborhood? This was my thought. With the neighbors in question, the relationship is beyond repair. They've made that clear. But for the sake of the kids, you guys should try hosting. Perhaps the other neighbors won't feel as strongly about cutting you out of their lives, and you will have an opportunity to rekindle some friendships. May I also suggest to still invite the other neighbors, even though they surely will decline. It just might be seen by others as catty or petty or competitive if you don't, and people might feel compelled to take sides, if they haven't already. I have a giant maple in a similar situation in front of my house. I would be devastated if it was gone. It shades a substantial part of my yard and adds privacy as well. OP. The relationships with our other neighbors are still pretty fine. Most have stayed out of it, understandably. My wife has spoken with another of her close friends on our street who said that she sees both sides, feels bad for us, but also understands why they're upset about the tree, which seems like the general neighborhood consensus. We've had a few smaller get-togethers with 1 to 2 other families, but maybe we'll try something bigger and invite everyone, including them, as an olive branch. Thank you. My new neighbor is spying on me with her Ring doorbell. I've been living in my apartment complex for 2 years now, and it's been wonderful. Recently, a young woman moved in across from my apartment. We met each other briefly, and apart from the noise made when she was having movers bring in her things, she's been very quiet and polite. However, there's one thing that bothers me. She has a Ring doorbell on her door. Recently, I saw her leaving, and I asked her why she had it, and that I was worried that she could see me in my apartment. She said she had it for packages and due to no peepholes on the door, and just for extra security. She showed me that, yes, it can see my door a bit, but assured me that she's not on her phone all day checking it. I expressed my discomfort with this, and I asked her to remove it. She told me she was sorry, I was uncomfortable, but she was not spying on me and she had a right to have it up. She wasn't breaking her lease, and she had seen other people in the complex have one. I told her I don't care about the other people. I want it gone, or I will be reporting her. She told me not to bother and called our property manager regarding it because I got a visit from her asking me to leave her in the doorbell situation alone. Am I really out of line for this? You're the jerk. Just think of it as extra security that you don't have to pay for. I guarantee if something happens at your doorstep, the first thing you'll do is go to her for the footage. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or their neighbor? Please let us know.
Reddit boy and I don't have 1 camera up outside. We have 9. You can never be too safe these days.
Sorry, you said you were allergic. Another restaurant story from a few years ago. I cook or wait tables, depending on how long it takes me to get fed up with one or the other, and I need a change. We always have to be very careful when it comes to allergies in food service, because it can result in life or death for some people with shellfish allergies, nut allergies, celiacs, etc. Enter the gluten-free trend crowd. While I recognize some people have a legit allergy, there are so many that are trying to be trendy. The big difference is that a person with a true allergy has an already general idea of what they can and cannot have, and will start the whole process off before ordering by letting you know what said allergy is, which we appreciate as it saves time. No big deal. The trendy gluten-free peeps need to tell you 3 times throughout their order, and then always end up backtracking after they find out that basically everything they desire to order either contains gluten or is potentially cross-contaminated. I was waiting this time around, and I started getting tired of hearing about it. We had a particular almost daily regular who would tell us every time about her gluten intolerance, tell all the people sitting near her about it, then proceed to order items that had gluten. I was having a bad day. She comes in, does her normal spiel about being allergic to gluten. I say, yup. Wasn't sufficient enough attention for her. She emphasizes what it does to her delicate system because she's allergic. She orders the usual. Food cooked and prepared in the fryer, which have had gluten-ridden fried food in them all day. I'm thoroughly annoyed now having to listen to her graphic detail about her gut and the effects from gluten. I, as usual, inform her the fryers are cooked in with items containing gluten. As she says the normal, "Oh, that's fine." I have an evil idea pop into my head. Ma'am, you just said you're allergic to gluten. I cannot, in good conscience, put this restaurant or my job at risk by serving you food that you will have an allergic reaction to. I'm sorry, but you're going to have to pick another item. She's shocked, starts backtracking. I stand firm. No, I'm sorry, but I just can't do it. If you get sick from the food because I was careless about your allergy, then I could lose my job. These are the items you can choose from today. Calls manager over. Manager backs me up after hearing the story. Manager was tired of her too. Lady indignantly orders one of the items I listed to save face. Obviously, no tip, but I don't really care. It was still worth it. Still came back 2 days later, miraculously cured of her gluten allergy. I refused service to a guest who used cancer as an excuse to be rude. Location: Nights in and sleeps somewhere in Washington State. I'm working the morning shift, and it's already busy as soon as I clock in at 7 a.m. 5 minutes later, I get a call from a guest in room 303. Upon answering, the guest explains that he wants to book a night in the same room and that he's going to be making a new reservation through a third party right now. Okay, I check our availability real quick, and I find that there's no available rooms for his room type, a single queen. However, there are 2 more double queen rooms available. As I was explaining the issue to him, as I was about to go through possible workarounds, he interrupted me. So, you're saying I have to leave at 11 a.m. and I have to wait until 3 p.m. to get back into this very same room? He said. I'm still thinking about where the miscommunication occurred, where he assumed that would be the case. I didn't even mention departure times in the conversation. His tone of voice was a blend of angry and entitled belittling towards me. The kind that sends you shaking, makes you think you got into trouble. I say, no, that's not what's going to happen. Let me explain. And the guest tells me the same thing, repeats his phrase. Sir, I have to leave at 11 just to get into the same room later? I'm paying for this new reservation right now, he said. Same tone, but louder. He's just angry. With pretty much a sold-out night, I'm tired of his antics already, and I've decided to pull the plug on him, seeing as how he was making me emotional at this point. Yes, you'll leave at 11 just like you said, I state, and I hung up the phone. I didn't find his new reservation yet. A few minutes later, he calls the desk again. Can I get transferred to customer service? He asks. I'm just here at the front desk. You're going to have to call. The guest interrupts me. He kept repeating the question again, getting angrier and angrier before I could even answer. Can you transfer me to customer service? Can you transfer me to customer service? Can you transfer me? And then he hangs up on the conversation himself. At this point, this man is going absolutely loony. Definitely not good for the hotel. I figure I've already told him he checks out at 11 a.m. and I'll just make my notes about it in the meantime. About 20 minutes later, I get a call from our hotel customer support line. They reference the problem guest and ask me why I'm making him check out at 11 a.m. and then back in at 3 p.m. Keep in mind, the problem guest booked through a third party. No clue why he called the hotel's direct service desk, so I explain myself. I tell the agent we're sold out tonight, and the guest was making grand assumptions that I have no control over. I reiterate that the guest is checking out at 11, but I am now refusing service to him due to his behavior. The customer service agent says that they understand and that they'll explain this to the guest. We hang up amicably. Meanwhile, I find that the problem guest did indeed make a reservation, an already paid for double queen room from the third party that definitely wasn't his room type. Not good. I already refused service to the guest, so I'll have to call him. I do so. When he answers, I tell him that I found his double queen reservation, and before I can tell him that I'm refusing service to him, he interrupted me again. Yeah, I booked that reservation, but I'll be staying in this room, and buzz off, he said. The phone clicked on my end. Oh boy. Well, it was about 9 a.m. at this point. The problem guests certainly had their room until 11, but afterwards I was getting him off property and then DNR'd, do not rent. So I waited, and I didn't have to wait long. The same guest comes down from his room. His hair was unkempt, and he was a tall and lanky-looking 30-year-old man. And he had the gall to ask me for a breakfast bag. He even introduced himself. By the way, I'm the guy from room 303, and I won't be leaving the room. I'm just here to get my breakfast bag, he said. I stifled a laugh. Oh, okay. I'm not getting you a breakfast bag. I'm refusing to service you, sir, I said. The problem guest just scoffed at me, repeated what I said under his breath, and then left without saying anything else. I was honestly surprised that he just left it at that. I thought that was probably the end of it. At least I officially told him my intentions with him. That wasn't the end of it. I get another call from our hotel customer service asking why I wasn't giving this problem guest his breakfast bag. I told them pretty much the same thing, though I definitely added in the fact that the guest told me to buzz off and was harassing me with these calls. And as a result, I'm refusing service to him. The agent understood, but asked if there was anything we could do to resolve the conflict. I told them that I was willing to cancel and refund the problem guest's reservation if he contacts the third party about it. We hung up amicably. At this point, I bet I was on this dude's mind. After that, I didn't buzz off and let him keep his room on a sold-out night. I'm proven right, because about 30 minutes later, he's at the front desk, lanky arms practically hugging the counter like an orangutan in a defensive posture. Hello, Mr. Problem Guest, I say. Can we start over? He asks. I mull it over, but if he wants to parlay, he has to hear how he affected me first. I look him in the eyes, and I tell him point blank. I didn't appreciate your behavior towards me one bit this morning, I say. And then he starts saying things.
I'm sorry if I was a little bit rude, but you were being just as bad. Did you know that I found out I contracted cancer yesterday? And then you do this to me? Refusing service and breakfast?
He says. Oh, so he's gaslighting me. I determine that he doesn't want to parlay. So I reply, you think that having cancer gives you the right to behave like you are towards me? I ask. The problem guest begins strafing as he's ranting at me.
I haven't done anything rude towards you at all,
he stated. I check the lobby and it's empty besides us. You told me to buzz off, I reply. I make sure to emphasize his words. He balks and mutters before saying clearly,
Yeah, I did, but I'm just trying to stay here a bit longer because I have cancer. Would you really kick out a person for contracting cancer?
Goodness, this guy was putting me on the spot. Oh well, consistency is key. Yes, I'm refusing service to you specifically for your behavior. We don't have any rooms for you anymore, I say.
I'm going to be on the street because of you,
he yells. I switch the conversation slightly. Don't worry about that, Mr. Problem Guest. I have no problems in canceling your reservation you just made. However, you have to contact the third party you paid and tell them about this situation so you can be refunded, I say.
But it's a non-refundable reservation. I won't get my money back, he says.
Oh, trust me, you will. As long as you contact the third party and have them contact me, you will, I say. With that, he went back to his room. The problem guest bothered me no more. I got a call from his third party and got the idiot his refund. He left the room in good condition, and I think he left at the side entrance because I never saw him again. He started with a bang and ended with a whimper. For my own work life, it's not worth arguing and placating people like this guy, especially on a night that I know his room will be sold soon anyway. The thing is, he probably would have gotten his wish if he wasn't so mean. I would have just switched one of our pending single queen room reservations into a double room, so Mr. Problem Guest could stay in the same room. But no, he had to assume that he was done for from the get-go and try to make me feel bad about the specific circumstances of doing my job. Because he had cancer, I guess. Karen fiance demands I buy gifts for her kid too. I'm 30, male. My daughter, who's 14, her Nintendo Switch completely stopped working earlier this week. She got it in the month it was released, of March 2017, and has kept it in good condition for over 6 years. Yesterday, she had her conference cross-country meet, where she both PR'd and qualified to run state. To celebrate her new achievements, I took her out to eat and then bought her a new Nintendo Switch with a game she picked out. My fiance, who's 38, came back from her parents earlier today and saw my daughter playing with her Switch. She asked me about it after my daughter left with her boyfriend, and I told her that I wanted to celebrate her accomplishments in her running career, so I got her a new Switch as a gift. Fiance then got really angry and told me that if I'm going to buy my daughter something, then I have to be fair and buy her kids, who are 19, 16, and 13, something too. I pointed out that I do buy her kids gifts when they reach goals and achievements too. For example, I bought my stepdaughter an inexpensive Hello Kitty necklace as a high school graduation gift, and I let both the boys pick out 2 video games when they both passed their final exams. She told me that it's unfair I spend more on my daughter than I do on her kids because I make a lot more than her. Fiance then got angrier and accused me of not liking her kids because of the different financial treatment between her kids and mine. She left with her 2 sons, but her daughter stayed with me at the house because she's on my side. I got a bunch of texts from her family calling me a selfish jerk for treating her kids differently when buying them gifts. Am I the jerk? Edit. To answer some common questions, because there's a lot of comments and it's hard to get them in a timely manner. How does your fiance treat your daughter? My daughter and fiance don't interact much. They're both polite to each other, but they simply don't talk much aside from small talk and my daughter asking her some questions about cooking food. I've mentioned to my daughter before that if my fiance were to ever mistreat her, she needs to tell me and I will always have her back no matter what. To my knowledge, my fiance doesn't do this at all. They just don't talk much. Do you have a will or a trust fund in place? I have a will set up that gives my daughter everything. My will is safe with a very trusted lawyer friend of mine. I also have a trust in place for my daughter, and she will gain full access to it once she turns 21. Did you have this argument in front of her kids? No, she called her kids down and told them what we were arguing about. I told them my side, and her sons took her side and left with her. What's your relationship like with her kids? How are they with your daughter? My relationship with her sons is unfortunately minimal. I try to talk to them about their favorite topics or hobbies, and they either ignore me or shut the conversation down as soon as possible. I don't talk to them much either, other than when they do come to me for advice on things like school, friends, etc. My relationship with our older daughter is very good though. I'd like to think that we're close. As for my daughter, she doesn't talk to her stepbrothers much, but she's extremely close with her older stepsister. I hope this helps clear some things up. Update. She came back at 12 in the morning alone. She said she left the boys at her parents' place because she doesn't, in her words, want them in the presence of a man who won't provide for them. I sat her down and talked to her about a lot of things, and a lot of you were right. This is not the woman I want to marry. Gee, you think? When I first brought up how she doesn't bring anything to the table when I pay for everything, she didn't want to talk about it and kept dodging the subject. I brought up how unfair it was of her to expect me to provide for her and her kids when she doesn't do anything for my daughter and the bare minimum for me. She doesn't do house chores, she doesn't pay bills, except her and her daughter's car payments and car insurance, and she spends minimal time with both me and my daughter. Fiancé didn't say anything. Then I talked about the financial and emotional issues, and she freaked out. She started yelling about how it was my job as the man to provide for her and her kids, when I make so much more than her and they have no father figure. I'm all they had, and she kept bringing that up as an excuse for her behavior towards my money and how I spent it on my daughter. When I asked her what she expected me to do about my will or a prenup, she told me that any good husband would put his wife above everything else. She had been banking on me giving her everything I had for over a year at this point. I don't like yelling at all, but I was at my breaking point with her at this point. We yelled at each other a lot. It's not my finest moment, and I'm ashamed, but I realized that I let so much happen and my daughter suffered as a result of it. I told her that I wasn't going to tolerate her any longer. My daughter's my #1 priority over anyone else and will always be. I don't think fiancé believed me when I said that, but I guess she realized I was serious when I told her to start packing. I'm done being an ATM for that lady, and it's crazy to think how strangers on an app made me realize how I was stuck in a toxic, manipulative, and mistreating relationship with her. My now ex-fiancé won't be a problem anymore, I hope. I don't think I'll be with another person for a long time, but thank you to everyone for the support and kindness. Edit. If anyone has any questions, ask me and I'll answer. Edit 2. My ex's daughter will be staying with me, and I will financially support her through college, and I will also help her get her own place. Her and I are on good terms, and I want to make sure my ex will not be using her as a token to manipulate me any further. Not the jerk. You're not even married, and already this kind of drama has started? Red flag. If she's that particular, she can buy them gifts as well. Or you both could discuss and get all the kids appropriate gifts together. Not the jerk. And if you want foreshadowing of what to expect if you proceed with marriage, you've got it right here. Red flags. Not the jerk. Good luck, bud. I was in a very similar situation about 5 years ago. We were never married, but by the time I realized how bad things were, it was already too late. I had to legally evict her and her kids, and she was still awarded palimony. I'm still paying her a nice chunk of my paycheck every payday, even though she's dated countless guys since we broke up. As long as she doesn't get legally married, I'll be on the hook, and I can't afford to fight it legally. Put in my 2 weeks notice. Covert narcissistic supervisor reveals herself. I, 30 female, have been working at a super small construction company for the past 2 years. I've put my best foot forward every day and never had any issues with anyone in the company. As of 3 months ago, they moved me from an infield coordinator to an accounting position. It was an emergency move as one of the employees stole $80,000 from the company and they needed an immediate replacement. My new supervisor, we'll call her Mary, who's 34, was always super kind to me and we've become pretty good and work friends. Well, these past couple of months have been horrible. I hate the new position, and to be fair, I'm not very good at it. So I found a new position and I've been keeping it a secret for a while. I let the owner know first, and he was very kind and receptive to it. The issue started when Mary got word of it. She immediately cornered me and started going on this rant, saying things like,
"Why didn't you tell me? You're being incredibly unfair and selfish. I can't believe you would do this to us. This is unacceptable. Don't ask me for a referral because you are not getting one from me."
I politely told her that the opportunity was something I simply couldn't pass up. She then went to the owner and asked for any details I might have given to him about the new company and new position, I believe to try to sabotage my leaving. And thankfully, I hadn't discussed any details about it with anyone. It was awkward after that, but I didn't think anything of it. The next day, when things took a turn for the worst, Mary decided to be petty and removed all of my authorizations to any accounts I had so I couldn't perform any of my daily tasks. I didn't want to leave on a sour note, so I brought it up to the owner, as Mary was out of office that day. He reauthorized my accounts and I continued to work. Mary was back the following day and completely livid that I had went around her and talked directly to the owner. Her actions towards me would only get worse from here on out. The next day, I came in to notice that my desk was moved and my computer access was taken away yet again. Cue the malicious compliance. Since I couldn't do any of my daily tasks and really didn't feel like dealing with a screaming Mary, I was on Reddit for basically the whole day. At the end of the day, Mary came into my new back storage office and said, "Busy day today? I know mine was." I just smiled and said, "Yup, exhausting." She did not like that response and went to the owner to say that I was purposefully not doing my job, and my last 2 weeks would be pointless, so we should just let me go now. The owner disagrees, calls me into his office, and after I explained what she had done, he gave me access again and told Mary to work from home. Another day goes by. It's extremely peaceful now that Mary is working remote, but unfortunately, this does not mean my day was getting any easier. Instead of taking my access away, she had IT start forwarding all my emails to other employees in our departments that had nothing to do with my specific position. At this point, I only had 3 days left, so I just took it as, okay, this sucks for them, but it's on Mary if anyone has questions. I looked at my PTO and I had way more than I had thought, so why not use those for my last days? And that's exactly what I did. I was originally supposed to let all vendors know and start forwarding them off to the appropriate people and interview second-round candidates for my position, but not anymore. The owner was completely okay with it and understood that Mary was being toxic and that he would have a talk with her about her attitude and position if this continues. Now with my last 2 days and me being on PTO, I finally thought I was safe from Mary, but lo and behold, she was still holding a massive grudge, as if me leaving my position was a personal attack on her. She called me at 4:30 in the morning and left me a voicemail saying our company was having an accounting emergency and I need to come in immediately. I called her back about 4 hours later, which she was fuming about, and went on a massive rant about how I'm extremely entitled. I will never get anywhere with my attitude. She's embarrassed for our company to say that I ever worked here. That if she ever finds out where I will be working, she will make sure that I'm fired and will never get a job in this town again. I laughed at her and she went ballistic, like when you take a 4-year-old's toy away. Screaming so loud her voice was shaking, saying silly things like I have no respect for her or the company and that I will rot in heck. I hung up on her when she started bringing my family into things. I called the owner and explained to him what happened, which he wasn't shocked about, and had told me that when she came in that morning, she was going on a rampage like the Tasmanian devil. After finding out what she was freaking out for, he promptly fired her. I was shocked, since this was such a small company and he definitely needed her. I had heard from another coworker that she ended up destroying a bunch of company property on her way out, and now she's facing a lawsuit due to the damages. So thankful she revealed her true self to everyone and that I'm far away from that company and her. Am I the jerk for requesting my next-door neighbor to make her toddler stop crying? Context. I, 36 female, live next door to new tenants who moved in 6 months ago and they have a toddler who's about 2 or 3 years old. He shrieks at all times of the day and just does the whole throwing himself on the ground tantrum thing multiple times a day. Due to the hybrid work model, I work from home 3 days a week. It's becoming a regular occurrence to have multiple instances of managers or clients asking why there's a kid crying. Over the weekend, I met my neighbor upstairs and she asked me if I had woken up early shocked. Context. Last Saturday, the whole building woke up at 5:45 in the morning because the kid was screaming and it went on for a good 20 minutes. Info. The kid is healthy, regularly see them in the play area and on the street. The mother is a stay-at-home mom. He is well looked after. He looks about 3 years old and goes to a play school in the mornings, but hasn't been going this week. Now on to what happened today. I'm working on something critical while handing off my responsibilities due to a transition and have back-to-back calls. Over the course of 4 hours, I had to keep pausing my calls. At one point, an important client in another continent asked me if I needed to be excused to take care of my kid. I should reschedule the call. Another person on the call chimed in with a sentence, "We shouldn't be ignoring our kids because our call is running long." Apologized to them and informed them that that was my neighbor's kid. They mentioned how it sounds like it's happening in my house. After the call ended, I went out to the balcony and in a very respectful way asked the mother if the kid was okay. She didn't like it and asked why. I asked her again if her baby is unwell and she said no. She mentioned she took away something that he was trying to eat and that's why he was crying. Explained to her what happened on my calls and she snapped with, "He's a baby. What do you expect?" I asked her if I didn't talk to the kid's mother, who else can I speak to? Explained to her that I completely understand the challenges of being a mother and I'm sure it's overwhelming, but it happens so many times a day and it's not letting me focus. She started crying. Was I the jerk? He's loudly crying as I type this. Took a voice recording, but don't think there's a way to attach it. I'm ready to be judged. If I was in the wrong, I'll go over tomorrow and apologize. Edit. A lot of folks are asking me to go to the office. Most tech companies have globally changed their policies to 100% remote work or some combination of hybrid work, so going to the office apart from my designated 2 days is not an option. Saw a few folks asking me to move. We have a lease till May of 2024, and this location is accessible to my offices. No jerks here. Horrible situation. I really suggest buying a decent headset which will reduce background noise and checking your team settings. I'm in a flat and had builders hammering directly on my wall. It was a nightmare for me to concentrate through, but no one on my call heard a peep. That was with a decent wireless set, maybe 75 pounds. Also, make sure you mute yourself unless you're actually speaking. No jerks here, but this isn't something you need to be involving yourself with. Tell the landlord, it's up to them to enforce solutions to noise problems, and that way it's documented, and if other people complain, it can be dealt with more directly. Also, having said that, it isn't that normal. Kids are loud, yeah, and they scream sometimes, but not constantly, unless something's wrong. And that reaction says mom knows it's a problem, but doesn't know what to do. If she had it under control, she'd be apologetic. No jerks here. When you have a toddler, you're darned if you do and darned if you don't. If you give in to a temper tantrum, you're told you're creating a spoiled brat. If you don't give in to a tantrum, most toddlers have the energy and grumpiness to tantrum loudly for hours on end. Would I be the jerk if I asked my stepdad to walk me down the aisle instead of my dad? When I, 28 female, was 4 years old, my dad cheated on my mom with his now wife and mom divorced him. She got 50-50 custody. I hated going to my dad's house because I didn't want his wife to tell me what to do. My dad reduced his time when he got married. I was 6 at that time and wasn't even invited to his wedding, but his stepkids were. His excuse was that I'm still bitter and will ruin the ceremony. Over time, he only paid just the child support and I was completely neglected. When my dad had my half-brother, he was busy with him and ignored me. He even stopped taking me to his house on the weekends. He would ignore me. He would tell me that he wouldn't talk to me unless I act like a good kid, aka call my stepmom Mom rather than her name. He would make excuses not to take me for ice cream or do any activities. There was a time when I graduated elementary school and he promised that he and I would go fishing. He ghosted me and told my mom there was an emergency. I was again let down. By that time, my mom started dating my stepdad, Lenny. Lenny was the father I never had. He was a single dad, but he still treated me like his own kid. He taught me how to swim, how to drive my car. He attended all the school functions I was in. He was there every time my dad wasn't. I went very low contact with my dad, only contacting him on Christmas. I don't even call him on Father's Day. So fast forward to now, I'm getting married. I've asked Lenny to walk me down the aisle because he's the only dad I've ever known. My dad and his family will be coming as guests. This infuriated my dad. He told me I'm his only daughter. I shouldn't keep him away from his right as a father. I'm getting calls from his side of the family too. My father is upset and I'm sidelining him. According to him, he's been a great father and I'm now being unfair to him. Also, he doesn't want Lenny to walk me down the aisle at all. I told my dad he can walk his stepdaughter down the aisle and he will only be my guest. I have made my decision. He called me a jerk and told me he didn't pay child support just so I could grow up to be an ungrateful brat. So was I wrong? I know he's my dad, but I just don't feel like he is. Update. I'm currently at the airport waiting for our plane to our honeymoon, so I thought I should give you an update. I got married 2 days ago. I can say that I'm relieved to know people don't think I'm doing the wrong thing. So I did just that. I texted my dad that I'm not changing my decision. If he wants to come to my wedding, he can. I'm not going to force him. That didn't work. He called my mom and asked to talk about this situation. I was hoping he would drop this, but no. He had to act as an entitled person. I wrote him a long message. I did not want to talk to him knowing he would interrupt me. He does that a lot. I told him to give me one good reason why I should let him walk me down the aisle when he's never been a dad in my life. He never cared enough to make his marriage work with my mom, and decided to betray her and our family. Despite all of that, I still loved him, but he had just left me too many times. Lenny has been my dad growing up. I doubt he even knows anything about me. He's just some guy who used to pay child support and with whom I share DNA. He's nothing like my dad because he misses all the big events in my life. He never cared or even tried to be there for me, and he has the audacity to call me his daughter. Since he didn't do his fatherly duties, I don't think I should do any daughter duties towards him. How can he possibly think he could give me away when he already gave me away 20 years ago? A few minutes go by, and then he calls me and asks if this is what I've thought about him my entire life. I asked him where was he when I was graduating? Where was he when I won the first prize in my dancing competition? Where was he when I needed someone to guide me? I dared him to tell me one thing about me. How much does he know me? When was the last time he initiated any conversations with me? He went silent. He asked me if I was still mad about the past. I told him the past was the reason I know he's an unreliable man. All these years, if he has taught me anything, it's that he's a crappy father, and someone like him cannot be trusted. I made the biggest mistake of my life believing he would come through. Lastly, I will not push him to come to my wedding. That's his choice. It's not like he's paying for it or anything. That was it. Later, I got a message from my stepmom that what I said has broken my father's heart. He's so upset. I told her, well, if he was upset by the truth, then he shouldn't have asked and pushed my buttons. He has ignored me all my childhood. He doesn't get to play the dad now. My wedding went smoothly. I would say the majority of my father's side of the family bailed. I had mom's side and some of Lenny's family as well, but overall it was fine. I can't be more thankful to Lenny, though it still hurts getting betrayed by my own dad, but I'm okay. My kids will know Lenny as their grandfather. Final update. I'm pregnant. I'm really excited about my pregnancy. My mom and stepdad have been really happy. I was no contact with my dad after the wedding. From my mother, I came to know that he wanted to contact me. I don't know what excuses he had now. My mom didn't give me his number or any contact info. I guess he heard about my pregnancy and wanted to contact me. I haven't heard from him, but I heard from my aunt that he's been devastated since the wedding. He wanted to come to my wedding, but he wasn't sure if I wanted him there. I mean, even if he is not walking me down the aisle, I still wanted him there. They've been pushing me to talk to my dad and at least hear him out, but I don't think I can. He's been pinning over the fact that he will not get to see his first grandkid. He's very upset and cries all the time. My stepmom also called me from a different number to persuade me to talk to him. She says I'm breaking their family by being petty and I should just let it go. My father is sorry for everything. Well, I responded in a very mean manner, which I sort of regret. I told her, "You mean like you broke my family 20 years ago by getting with my father?" She says I'm being bitter about things that happened 20 years ago. It wasn't just 20 years ago. It was 20 years of countless therapy sessions. Some wounds just don't heal. But I don't think she understood anything that I said. My father has other biological kids. Since he was there for all of them, maybe he should seek them out to give him grandkids, and not the forgotten daughter he threw away because he prioritized something else over her. Sorry for this rant, I'm just emotional, and someone suggested I should ask my stepdad to adopt me. I'm happy to say we are in that process. As for my donor, maybe someday I'll have it in my heart to forgive him, but for now, maybe that day will never come. Am I the jerk for not staying home for the night with my daughter while my wife goes out with friends? Background. My wife rarely goes out with friends, about 6 times per year, and has never been very social and prefers spending time with me. I'm more social, but that has declined as we focused on our family. We have a 2-year-old daughter, and I spend time with the same 3 friends once a week for games night, sometimes in person, sometimes online. I have another 3 friends that I see only once every 2 months, also for games night. If I go out, my wife will tend to our daughter. I often still help with dinner and bedtime, but sometimes leave earlier than this. Our daughter's bedtime is 7:30 p.m., and she often sleeps through the night without fuss, wakes up fussing maybe 5% of the time. I always offer for my wife to sleep in the next day or something similar in exchange for me going out so that it's not a one-sided thing. Scenario. My wife made plans to spend an evening this weekend out with friends. She should be out from 6 p.m. until late. After she made those plans, I was invited to my friend's birthday thing with my second friend group. If I went, I would be gone from 5 p.m. until late. Last time I saw them was exactly 1 month ago. I brought this plan up with my wife as I wanted to make arrangements for a family member to take our daughter for the evening. She was irritated by this and argued that I should stay home. I have since spoken with a family member who's happy to take our daughter at 5 p.m. and have her stay the night, and I've communicated this with my wife. I made it clear that this will not affect her plans at all. I will be responsible for drop-off and pickup of our daughter and will not ask anything of my wife because I understand that it's rare for her to have a night out like this, and so I don't want her to change her plans at all. She still thinks that I should stay home. Her arguments. She says that since she always covers for me, that I should also cover for her. She doesn't want to ask this family member to have our daughter for the night because she thinks we ask too much of them. My arguments. I'm covering for her as she does not have to change her plans and doesn't have to do anything for our daughter. This family member loves watching our daughter, and my wife is often quick to agree to leave our daughter there for sleepovers plenty of other evenings out of convenience. Example, we'll be there for dinner and put our daughter to sleep so she can visit longer, and then we will leave her there for the night. So I don't see why this time it's too much to ask. I feel like she wants me to stay home as a form of punishment for going out more frequently than she does. I don't think there's any other major resentment behind this or anything. I just don't know how else to describe the feeling. So am I the jerk for making plans to go out the same night my wife already has plans to go out, even though I'm covering all arrangements for our daughter for the evening? Edit. Not sure why everyone thinks I'm planning on drinking, but I would not be drinking if I went to the birthday. You're the jerk. This is more about the emotional load than logical reasoning. Your wife is likely not going to be enjoying herself the same as she would if you had stayed at home. She isn't necessarily going to worry all night, but she will be aware that your daughter is out of the house. She's going to mentally check in. Now they are driving over. Now she's likely settling down. Now you're picking her up. Time for bed again. Every time she mentally checks in, she exerts a little effort. Maybe she glances out the window to check the weather if it's good for driving. Maybe she checks her watch or phone to see if you called. However, even the energy of simply having thoughts adds up. If your wife is like many parents I know, especially the main caregivers, she's always alert, she's always on. You being home with your daughter doesn't turn that off, but it does lessen the amount that it happens. The mental load of knowing your kid is as safe as possible with their other parent is different from knowing they're driving around and at another house. It doesn't matter how safe it is, travel needs more attention than staying home. You get to go out, you get mental breaks from parenthood. She doesn't get the same breaks, she's asking for one now. You need to decide, does it really matter who's right here? Your wife is unhappy. This is a rare occurrence for her that means a lot, and you see your friends all the time. Even if you think my reasoning is completely irrelevant, is this birthday party really worth it? You're the jerk. She barely goes out. You go out all the time. Why can't you give your wife this one night and spend time with your toddler? I was on the fence until you said that parenting your kid was punishment. Dude, so much you're the jerk. You're the jerk. Really inconsiderate here. Parenting your daughter isn't a punishment. It's what happens when you decide to have a kid with your wife. You go out much more often than she does. Your wife understandably wants you to take care of her for one night, and I totally understand not trusting even family members, if that's the issue. Not the jerk. Switch the roles, and everyone would be saying the opposite. You found adequate care, and your wife is throwing a fit because she wants to be difficult. Imagine if she was the one saying husband is demanding she stay home while he stays out all night. That's Reddit for you. Not the jerk. As a non-American woman, I don't understand why she has to go out at all. Going out with her friends, who are no doubt not in relationships themselves, is how people get involved in actions such as cheating and not remaining faithful. Myself nor any of my married friends do these sorts of things because we know it's not the way to a happy, healthy family life. She should be at home with the kids and being a loving mother, not going out to party, drink, or dance with other men like her friends want her to. It is no wonder to me that so many American men move to my country and start families here. What they have to deal with in their own home country, I find to be so shameful, and I hope more of them move here where we still have traditional family values. Edit. I'm from the Philippines. Second edit. I find it funny when you all say that we just want your men for their money. Salary over $300 US per month is considered rich in my village. But sure, you keep telling yourselves that. Divorce is not even legal here, so he never have to worry about us leaving him and taking everything we can in court, like most of you will. Entitled sister would have me lose my job and my house to attend her destination wedding. My younger sister has always had issues with entitlement, taking advantage of others, throwing fits. Not trying to dispense armchair diagnosis, but she really does check every box of NPD. A few years ago, she announced her engagement to a nice guy who is rather a pushover. He expressed not wanting to get married for a while, but she proposed to him. Not that there's anything wrong with that, and kept pressuring him to get married. He comes from a wealthier family than us and is good with money and investments. Perfect combo for her to take advantage of and have someone bankroll her delusions. He wanted a modest local wedding so friends and family could attend. My sister decided she wanted a destination wedding outside the country. At the time, my husband and I didn't have the best paying jobs. He was working on a second degree, and we had imminent goals of buying our first home together. We respectfully declined her invitation because the trip would cost us $3,000 to $4,000, which we did not have. It would have to go on a credit card. When we RSVP'd no, she said she and her now husband wanted to pay for everything so we could attend. My husband and I were floored because 1, that's a lot of money, and 2, my sister has never been one to offer to pay for anything. We accepted her offer with a lot of gratitude. A couple of months go by, and she asks if my husband and I have booked our airplane tickets and hotels yet, and said,
They just keep getting more expensive the closer they get to the date, you know?
What? I've never expected anyone to just give me anything, but my financial situation hasn't changed. We tell her as much, and she says,
Well, husband and I looked at all the prices a while ago, and it is too much money, so you guys will have to take care of it yourselves.
We ignored her and went on with our goals. Months go by, and my husband and I both get better jobs and buy our house. Sister comes back and asks again if we purchased our tickets despite repeatedly telling her no. We tell her again, no. And at this point, with our new jobs, we aren't allowed to take time off yet and don't have enough paid time off anyway. When I started my job, they offered to honor upcoming events if I needed time off, but I had said I didn't need anything since I already planned on not going to the wedding. We didn't have savings and took on a mortgage, so we can't tack on credit card debt too. I was so annoyed with her constant,
Just figure it out,
tantrums, and
if you really loved me,
speeches. I tried to frame it differently so maybe she could understand. I told her that attending her wedding would mean that we would have to no-show at work, likely lose our jobs, not be able to pay our mortgage, and then lose our home. I said to her, So you're okay with my husband and I losing our jobs and house and risking homelessness to attend your wedding? Of course, she didn't have a good answer for that. She has no concept of money because she's always manipulated people into paying for her. She has never been able to hold a job. She has no empathy for others, yet she thinks that she's deserving of special treatment. I don't understand where it comes from because our parents raised us to be hardworking and to not expect crap from anyone. Our parents and my husband and I couldn't afford to attend. My husband's family could and wanted to go, but she wouldn't allow it because
it would be weird to only have his family there and not mine.
She put up a huge paywall and then blamed us for having to elope and went no contact with us. It was honestly a huge relief after a lifetime of her mistreatment. Edit. When we accepted her offer to pay for our trip, she had said to not worry about anything at all. She said she would book our flight and hotel and everything and to just sit back and relax because she just really wanted us to be present at her wedding. She just gave us dates to put in time off requests at our old jobs. So this is why we didn't buy anything with the intention of her reimbursement and were surprised when she asked us if we had done that stuff yet. Should have known better since all of that is very unlike her. Am I the jerk for telling my parents that if they give my brother money, I will stop giving them money? I'm 32, female. My brother, who's 35, is horrible. He has multiple baby mamas and he's a deadbeat. He also is the apple of my mom's eye. He can do no wrong and is just misunderstood. My parents are retired and they're on a fixed budget. I do well for myself and I help them out. I give them maybe $500 a month to help with groceries and bills. Every once in a while, I'll give them some extra for an unexpected expense. No questions asked. My mom asked me for $2,000. I sent it to her. Strangely enough, I ran into my brother at a family wedding I had been told he could not afford to attend because it was a destination wedding. Weird. Funny story, he actually missed the wedding because he hooked up with some random on an excursion and went to their resort. It was our cousin's wedding and my aunt was upset. She had to make special arrangements to get him included on the trip since he only got the money last minute. She said my mom shouldn't have given him the money if he wasn't going to show up. Then she shut up after she saw the look on my face. I enjoyed the wedding and had a great time. When I got home, I went to see my parents. I asked my mom why she had asked for the $2,000. She lied and said something for the house. I asked what, and she couldn't say. I told her what my aunt said. I told her and my father that from now on, I wanted receipts for any money I gave them. I said I have no problem helping them, but I'll be darned if I work my butt off to give her the money to give to my crappy brother. She started crying, and my dad said they weren't kids and they don't answer to me. I agreed and walked out. I didn't talk to them for 2 months. My aunt called me yesterday and told me that my parents were thinking of going to the food bank since they didn't have any money. I said I had given them $2,000 a couple of months ago, and that was more than my family of 3 spent on food on that time. She said I knew darn well that they had given the money to my brother. I told her that he should probably pay them back then. She said I was being a jerk. Am I the jerk? You're not the jerk. Your parents are. They've created this monster, and now you're supporting him. They're using you as a cash cow. Yes, it's true they don't answer to you, but if you're footing the bill, then they darn well better tell you where the money is going. And your aunt calling you a jerk is funny. If she cares so much about your parents, she should be paying the bill, which I highly doubt because people are always one to talk but never one to sign the check. Stand your ground and let them suffer a little so they understand. They'll be fine. It's not going to hurt them to eat some food from the food bank for once. The big problem here is they have no respect for you or your money or your hard work. The sooner you cut people like that out of your life, the better off you'll be.
Entitled babysitter is demanding I pay to have her laptop fixed. I, a single mom of 2, hired a babysitter after I started working my new job. I used to do work from home for 2 years. My kids are 8 and 6. The babysitter is 17. She brings her laptop with her to study, which is perfectly okay with me as long as she keeps an eye on the kids. Yesterday I came home and the babysitter showed me that her laptop had been broken by my youngest. I was shocked. I asked how this happened, and she said that she left the laptop in the living room and went to make the kids lunch, but my youngest grabbed it and ran with it until he dropped it and broke the screen. I said that was horrible and apologized to her, but I did state that it was her fault for leaving the laptop within the reach of the kids. She said she thought my kids were old enough to know not to touch other stuff. I explained how they might have thought it belonged to us since it was in our house. She asked if I could pay for it to be fixed, but I refused and insisted it was her problem, not mine. She ranted about having exams soon and not having enough money to get it fixed. We argued, and I had to tell her to go home after she persisted. Later on, I got a call from her dad, basically blaming the whole thing on me and demanding I pay to get the laptop fixed, but I still refused. Now she's refusing to come again unless I pay for her laptop repair, even though I paid her in advance to watch the kids. You're the jerk. A 6 and an 8-year-old are absolutely old enough to know not to touch other people's stuff or run around with it. Signed, a mother of a 6-year-old. You're the jerk. You pay for what your kids destroy. That's part of being a parent. End of story. You're the jerk. It happened in your home and was done by your kid. Pay up, or maybe she can sue you and get it off your home insurance in small claims court. You're the jerk. Your kid broke it, and it wasn't an accident either. They're also 6 and 8, not 2 and 4. They knew it was an electronic device, and unless you literally have the exact same computer, they knew that it was hers. Not the jerk. Can't believe all these people telling you that you're the jerk in this situation. What if they had gotten hold of something dangerous? If she had been supervising them the way she was being paid to, this never would have happened. If she tries any funny legal business, reach out to me. I'm a family attorney and will take your case pro bono, because this would be a situation in which we can definitely countersue due to the fact that she was not babysitting the way she was supposed to be. I once won my client a settlement for $175,000 by countersuing someone who left their pool gate open. Long story short, people who make foolish decisions will be held accountable in a court of law. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or the babysitter? Please let us know. I think that lawyer that commented was the biggest jerk of them all. Do this next. Tap here on your screen to come see our new podcast playlist, where you'll find thousands of hours of the best stories you've ever heard. Or tap the one on the right. That episode is specifically just for you, based on other videos you've enjoyed the most.